Boom. We're live, dude.
Awesome.
We are live. How is everyone doing? I hope whoever's joining us tonight, either tonight or watching this later, is gonna enjoy this show. Dude, how have you been? How have
Getting
you
older.
been?
Getting
Getting
old.
older?
I think that's what I said to you. Yeah.
You're
It's
not
crazy.
old. You're lying.
31, man. It's funny. I started when I started at Blizzard, or no, I got hired in a Blizzard before I could actually drink. Like,
That is funny. Like how old were you? Like 12?
no, they got when I got the. I don't know. Seth knows the story better than I do. I think it was like 20, 19 or 20 or something like that when they reached out. But it was really weird. They're like, "Can you drink?" I'm like, "Well, yeah." That's probably shouldn't say that,
Oh
but
wait, yeah, hold on. In US it's 21, right?
yeah, dude.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. You can go to war and kill people when you're 16.
It's crazy. I mean, I remember there was a Christmas one year where like I got I got like a shotgun for Christmas, right? Like I couldn't
hmm
even drive at the time. Like just doesn't make any sense.
that's just, you know, America, I guess.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
America, dude. That's so funny. That's legit funny.
Yeah, but I mean,
Um,
I've just been doing a lot of different learning stuff in the last few months. Just been trying to learn as many different things as I can. Kind of going back and revisiting old techniques and trying to change
mhm.
them up and see how all of that stuff works.
Right. Right. Yeah, that makes sense, man. That makes sense. Well, your journey in this started like really early then, like 20 years old. Actually, you know what? I remember when I was 20. It wasn't like a Blizzard caliber though. I started working at People Can Fly. I
Dude,
think
I
I was
fucking
20.
love those guys. Dude, did you work on Painkiller?
I joined them when they were finishing the first Painkiller.
Oh,
And that was like 15 people or like maybe 20. It was like
dude,
super small team. That was right before games industry went into that, that whole thing called um the whatchamacallit, the
next gen.
next gen, yeah.
Yeah.
Like it used to be that video game companies would be like really small, like really small. You
Hmm.
would maybe have I don't know, like how many developers would be in the company? Like 20. You would probably have like one or two texture artists. Um, maybe few, like maybe two or three animators. Maybe one. Like I remember they had like two or three environment guys. Uh, like on Painkiller, they didn't even have a concept artist.
It was all BSP too, I think, right? That was gosh, 'cause that was I learned that engine, dude. I was like 14 or 15 when I started playing around with that fucking game engine. I didn't even know what the hell it was. It came with the discs. It's like, all right, let's see where
Yeah.
this goes.
But that was different times. And then like shortly after, like I remember when I joined. Oh my god, is this gonna crash? Fuck. Oh, I hate this shit, dude. I hate this stuff.
Are you in 2020?
Yeah.
Dude, because do your auto back, do these recovery files corrupt for you?
No, no.
Okay,
That's the
mine
only.
corrupt.
That's the only. I guess the only thing that kind of works, dude. If files would corrupt, I would just lose it.
That's
Okay,
why
let me do
I
this.
do the incremental save. So my drive is just littered with thousands and thousands of version 1002 or whatever, or fuck.
Hmm.
I mean, I always put expletives as I'm getting angrier and angrier in the project. Like my file names start changing.
Yeah, it's frustrating like when that happens. But like pretty much every software does that
Oh,
these days.
oh, constantly, man.
Yeah,
And
let
I
me
mean,
save
you kind
this.
of, I don't know, I definitely get super pissed about it, but if you kind of step back for a second and kind of look at it, you're like, it kind of makes sense. It's all really complicated shit, you
Hmm.
know?
Yeah. Um,
Let's see here.
it is better. Like the 2020 is better than 2019, though.
Oh, by far.
Yeah, it's way better. It's not ideal, but I don't get as many crashes anymore that I used to in 2019. I don't think I got any corrupted files. I usually like have to really push um, the software to the limit or do like some weird stuff for it to crash normally.
Okay. I mean,
Um,
for a lot of my stuff, like, I mean, it's crazy. Like like Macs still can handle an insane amount of polygons for like, especially for like the environments and
oh
stuff.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Like, I'll
hundred
get into the
percent.
hundreds of millions of polys, and it'll just chew right through it. But you know,
So let me ask you this: is there any other like you work in Macs as well, right?
mhm.
As far as I'm concerned, do you try? Have you ever tried any other software? Like I'm pretty sure you did, but like really gave something a legit shot, you know?
Yeah, Maya. I was using. I mean, I've used Maya in studios for years.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you know, I like Moto, but I've also gotten some really bad shit out of Moto that's extremely frustrating. And then I always go back to Max, right? Like it's just kind of at a certain point. Like I was talking to a friend of mine, Jay, about this. Because he's a big Blender dude. He always sends me all the cool videos because, like, I think Blender's probably the software that has like the most innovation going on with it right now because it's
Oh
like
yeah, yeah,
all
yeah.
open source,
Mm-hmm. It
and
does. I tried it myself. It's awesome.
it's great.
I would
It's
say
super
I
great.
would say with and as a software itself, it's pretty powerful. I was actually pretty surprised how much stuff is in there. You know, like you have not only just modeling tool, but also like proper sculpting, pretty decent particle system. Dope shit is pretty cool. Like there's a lot of like really good things you can do with the software. So I was like super surprised because like the first line of thought is gonna be like, oh, it's a free software. Therefore, like it can't like I don't know if it's gonna be that good.
Hmm.
That's like what most people would think, and that includes myself as well. I was like, there's no way it can be that good. And then
Hmm.
and then obviously because it's a cult. If you talk about Blender, you're gonna have
It's
you're
a
gonna have like
cult.
a yeah, it is a cult. Like if
Yeah,
you say
dude.
anything about Blender, there's always gonna be like one or two people that are gonna pop up as like, oh, Blender.
Oh yeah, man.
And you get like tons of like comments and stuff. Dude, it's kind of funny because like anytime I post, and we kind of spoke about social media like right before we started streaming, which I guess could be a good topic to talk about too. But it's kind of funny. Like anytime I post something, almost every single post I make about if I'm posting new work or something, there's always at least one person. It's like, dude, Blender can do the same.
Oh yeah, dude. Straight up. That's why I love Jay because I know every time I fucking post an environment piece, I get that from him. Like, and it's obviously coming out of an awesome space,
Yeah, 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 yeah. And
But
I get it. Like Blender, I'll say this because I gave like I promised myself to give Blender like a proper try. And I got like super busy with work, so I have to rely on something that I already know really well, which is like 3ds Max. I actually picked up 3D Code as well
oh,
recently,
nice, dude.
and it took me like about a day to kind of like get the philosophy of it.
Hmm.
Um, and it's great. It actually made like I'm working on this project right now with Sony, and it just made the whole process like super painless. Because I use it on like a very crude way for concepts,
Hmm.
just to block out stuff real quick, and it's perfect for that. Is just like perfect. Like I couldn't imagine using better software. Like I
It's
guess
great for hard surface shit too, man. Like if
yeah.
you get, especially like the voxel rooms, like if you get like a good kit bash library of shit,
Mm-hmm.
and it's the stuff's like sealed up, man. I mean, the only difference, I mean, again, you don't have the control over the fillets like you would in CAD or whatever, but it's really, really strong. You
You
know?
know what's super strong right now? I think the fact that um, Fusion 360 um, got the shortcuts. Like
Yeah.
you can
Oh
actually now
yeah.
use shortcuts. It made it like super fast software to use. Because there's still certain things that I wish were shortcutted, and I guess there's a. I'll just wait and ask and keep asking for it to happen. It's
Hmm.
great because they actually do listen to the community, the developers. So it's
Yeah.
like really cool. You can do like requests. It's pretty much like what you do with Blender, I guess. People do requests and send stuff over, and then because it's open source, like either someone creates tools for it or something, and that's awesome. And actually, I'll tell you this: I would say for hard surface with box cutter and mesh machine, like all of those plugins.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, I would say Blender is probably the best like hard surface modeling software right now by
Yeah.
far. I would say, obviously there is a huge benefit of doing things in CAD because then you can go into like micro details,
Hmm.
which is awesome. So then you would go with Fusion 360 or Moments of Inspiration.
Hmm.
But there's certain tools that it already has that are like far superior to 3ds Max. I just wish my only and I'm still kind of learning it, still trying to get used to UI. It's maybe I'm too old to understand it like super quick. Because like anytime, and I'm pretty sure you have that as well. Like anytime you want to learn something new and stuff is not working from the get go, you get like super frustrated.
Oh
It's
yeah,
like,
dude. Especially with time, man. Like an hour is a big deal. Like, you know what I mean? Like a
yeah,
whole day, that's a huge fucking time commitment, and let alone like multiple days.
exactly.
So, I mean, it's funny too because like I was actually talking to a couple friends of mine that are like they're modelers, like that's what like professionally they do,
Hmm.
and we're talking a lot about the CAD stuff because like the traditional like poly modelers they again it depends on the studio, depends on the pipeline and all that kind of stuff, but a lot of them they don't really enjoy dealing with CAD data, getting it through the concepting pipeline
Hmm.
because of the amount of cleanup that happens off of it.
Yeah, yeah.
Because at the end of it, like, I mean, I don't know, like it's just weird. I guess it depends on the need of the pipeline, right? Because you tend to stay more in film, right? Or you do games too, though. You do fucking everything.
Yeah, I've done games for like 12 years.
12 years.
Yeah, I would say 12 years.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, so I think like you get into this weird space where like I don't know. It just kind of depends on I guess what you're doing and where you're going with it. Because if you're doing something in like to where you're like, all right, I need a high, I need a low. Yeah, and I mean, don't get me wrong. You can definitely take some of the CAD data and throw it through, Moy and whatnot. But
Hmm.
depending on how the stuff is actually modeled inside of the CAD software, cleanup time can be just as long as it would be to make it in some cases. It's
Yeah.
pretty interesting. But there's a dude. I don't know if they got to get their pricing structure more fluid, and hopefully they get it out more open to artists and stuff. But Instalod's pretty fucking good, man. Like for doing that, like it's kind of where I see a lot of like this grunt
What's
work.
pretty good?
Instalod,
What's that?
it's a dude. You gotta go to Google and check this thing out. It's fucking crazy. It's like it was made for CAD software, like so they could actually interface with renderers and stuff like that, and it does like full voxelization or retopo or decimation. It'll reconstruct the mesh. It's fucking nuts.
Oh,
It's
it's
the
like a
best.
retopo. It's like a Z remesher kind of deal.
Dude, you can't even put it on the same level. Like
Mm.
it's the closest thing I've ever seen to like a true one button, like one stop shop
Mm-hmm.
fix. There's some issues that it has along with the UVs and stuff. Like my friend Chris, he's a really really good artist. Um, he messages me every once in a while and complains about like how you can't like update the UVs and stuff with it, which is all stuff they're working on. But it's definitely fucking a cool software, man. Like it's interesting. Like as the technology has changed over the years.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost become like more democratic. I don't know if that's the right way to say it, but like there's more access to it, right? You have more access to it, and it's like before, like these softwares and stuff would cost thousands and thousands and thousands of fucking dollars. Like, but now
do you remember the times when Photoshop was $4,000?
Dude, like it's fucking crazy. You'd have to like. There's no way you couldn't work in like a huge studio because your software license would be what your your salary would be for the year. So
yeah, it was pretty crazy.
Just crazy to see how different it's gotten and like how much. I don't know. It's pretty neat. I don't know. It's kind of like from the game side of it. That's kind of the indie dev stuff. It gets romanticized a lot because the shit that those guys go through is really brutal. Like because you know you don't have money when you're doing it. But I see that happening more and more though. Like where it'll become more of like kind of going back to what you're talking about, like with the People Can Fly and like these smaller studios. I mean, don't get me wrong. These huge behemoth productions will still be around. They'll always be around. Mm-hmm. But it's cool to kind of see that there's more options now for this stuff, like more paths of entry for, you know, all sorts of different people. I mean, fuck, dude. I mean, it's kind of crazy. You can, you know, you can be a concept modeler. You can be an actual like modeler. You can be like, you can specialize in each of those fields in 50 different ways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Time's changing. It's just it is right now. It's so easy. It's so easy to learn that stuff. I remember the times when you would have to get like Gnomon DVDs to find anything. That was like when I was joining the industry. There was no YouTube. Mm-hmm. You wouldn't have any of those resources. So, like you would have to rely on, like either going on forums and asking questions and hoping you're gonna find some friendly soul to chat with, you know, or just like, you know, let's try like any of those freaking
buttons and see what happens.
Yeah, buttons and see what happens. It was just like kind of crazy times.
It was fun though. And like that stuff was super fun. Like some of my favorite memories of like working in CG and all that shit was being fucking flat broke, staying up till like 4 a.m. like trying to figure out how to fucking do a cloth sim because there was no documentation on it.
Yeah. Dude, those times. So crazy. Cool, man.
And it's fun. Like one of the things I'm super fortunate. I've gotten to do a bunch of things with a bunch of different people, and I've been always lucky to work with people who are way better than me, so I get to kind of absorb that. Like a vampire. It's terrible, but it's true. And you know, it's fun to talk to the old school guys. Like there's like a plethora of fucking knowledge that these dudes have that you've never fucking know. Like from the the different kinds of like actual dedicated workstations. Like there used to be a point where the actual workstations were designated just for the software. You'd have like you know what I'm talking about?
Flame?
Yeah, like dude, this shit's fucking crazy. Like you can run this shit on an iPad now.
Yeah. It's so different now. I remember when I was, you know, digging in, trying to figure out you know, those things, and yeah, like I would see a studio opening and there was like a flame operator or something. And I would look up the software, like how much it costs. Like, oh, it's only $40,000, and you have to buy it with the workstation.
Yeah, dude.
It's like, what? That's crazy. That's so insane.
It's a weird. Like, this is kind of it was funny. My brother Derek, he's like a doctor person. Like he like puts people under like when they go to do surgery and shit.
Like
he's the guy who like, yeah, he gives you the drugs. Like that's his thing. And, you know, like we were talking about, you know, like kind of like training and on the job training and like how that kind of goes with CG because, I mean, like, you know, like it's a full-time fucking job just to stay up on the technology alone, let alone actually doing work.
Yeah.
And I was asking him, I'm like, how do you guys like R&D this stuff? Like, how do you test it? It's not like you can go home and start playing with the different chemicals and seeing what happens, right? And like I was explaining to him like kind of how we all do this shit, like, you know, like you work and then you go home and you do the software and stuff, and he's like do you get paid for that? I was like, no, like Like, it's just
What kind
it's
of question
fun.
is
It's
that?
part, yeah, and it's like he's like, well,
No,
then
we're
why do you
having
do that?
fun.
Yeah, we're having fun. We're all like sweating bullets trying to like keep this stuff up. It's crazy though, man.
Yeah.
It's interesting. Like you were like, gosh, that dude that you just showed, who had like, who was doing all the YouTube videos and stuff. What was his name?
Ross Tran.
Dude, that was crazy. I didn't like it. I had no idea that like you can do that. You can have
Yeah,
like that's incredible.
you absolutely can. And podcasting, having a YouTube career as well, it's a thing. Like you can definitely make a living doing that. I used to live in Marina del Rey,
Hmm.
and I remember there was this guy. Like I used to watch this YouTube channel. It was called Bro Science. It was basically like a dude that would just like talk like a bro in the gym, you know. But he would have like the most ridiculous ideas about things, and it was all comedy basically. It was just guy acting like a gym bro. And I moved to Marina, and I remember, I was getting into the elevator, and I see this guy. It's like, oh, he looks familiar, but I just could never tell who that was. And he was like, that was a guy that was driving like a DB9. It was like
Jesus,
one of
man.
the better cars in the building. I was like, shit, this guy is rich. Like
Hmm.
he's doing really well. That's awesome for him. Um, and so, fuck, what was? I can't remember how it was to enable back the Control V now. Dude, I keep like. Do you remember how it was to get enable the gizmo? Like I
Oh,
disabled it.
X. Hit X.
No, it's not X.
That's what is on mine. Let me open up. Let me see here. Mr. 3D Studio.
Anyways, this guy was like, and I wasn't sure like who that was. And then I like, oh shit, that's the guy from the YouTube. And it was kind of crazy because then I realized I started like digging into. I was like, I think that was the first time I actually started digging into.
Control Shift X. That's what it is. I'm
Oh,
like,
there you
what the
go.
fuck?
Yeah, there you go. Got it. Thanks, buddy.
Yeah.
That was like the first time I actually started digging into, what being a YouTuber means, you
Mhm.
know? And I remember because I was like an apartment building, and every now and then you would see someone like just walking around and checking the building because they wanted to, get into a lease. And yeah, it'll be like I remember hearing like like the office lady asking like, what do you do for a living? It's like, oh, I am a YouTuber. It's like, oh,
Hey, what is that?
what is that?
What exactly would you say you do?
Yeah.
No,
What
I mean,
exactly you do? It's kind of crazy because like in US, I guess mostly in US, I don't know how it is in Europe. I'm pretty sure it's changing, but like imagine you talk with your parents, they're like pretty old school, and they
mhm.
ask you like, hey, so how's your job? Like how are you doing these days? Like, oh, I'm doing YouTube. It's like, huh?
What?
What?
That's not a thing.
You watching videos and you making money doing that?
I mean, it blew my mind. Like at some of the other studios I've worked at, like where like we talk about like the professional gamers, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
like you think as like a dev, you're like, dude, my salary's awesome. Like this is great. I'm doing, you get to a point, you're like, yeah, things are fucking rocking. And then you find out there's a dude who's maybe 16 or 17 that has made more in a month than you have your entire fucking year of working.
Yeah.
You're like,
That
whoa.
happens. That
Oh yeah,
happens.
man.
But here's the thing. Like it all looks very all of it looks very like quote unquote easy on the surface. But then when you dive into actually knowing what those guys do, like what kind of sacrifices those guys do
Oh
in order
yeah.
to get there, it's like, oh, okay, like You know, when you always hear about your favorite artist like working way harder than pretty much anyone else you know, that's
Hmm.
basically that's basically what happens to those guys as well, you know?
Oh yeah, dude, and they're passionate about it. I mean, it's no different than anything else, right? Like, I mean, you get into it and
Yeah.
you're able to rock it out.
I remember reading about like Ninja is like the biggest guy right now, I think, right? If I'm correct.
I don't know enough
If I
about it.
remember.
I'm pretty
Yeah,
ignorant to
I
it.
think he's like the biggest on Twitch. And I remember reading, you know, I was curious, you know, where the whole thing started for him. And I think he used to be like a really big into like tournaments with like Halo tournaments, as far as I remember. Maybe I remember it wrong, but it was one of those things where, oh, like he actually, you know, have done professional gaming for like a really long time, and it wasn't an accident that um, he became popular. It's like
Oh yeah,
it's a
I wouldn't say it's
mixture.
an
Yeah, it's
accident.
like a
They fucking
mixture
bust their ass.
mixture of having like interesting personality plus insane gaming skills.
Well, it's cool because like I don't know, it gives me like as the technology changes and stuff. It's like you hear all the time people are like, "Oh, AI is the end of everything," you know, like it's just kind of cool to see like these alternative kind of mediums like for people to that pop up, you know.
Hmm.
And I don't know, dude. I think it's kind of cool when people like make it work outside of the system. You know, like
Yeah,
it's like it. I don't know. It's inspiration, right?
it's very cool to see the change that is happening. I think I've seen it was like the craziest thing I've seen recently was actually the Nvidia stuff, the AI
Mm-hmm.
that you guys are building there. I don't know if you specifically, but you know there was like this city scanning technology that, you know, the camera would scan the city and then like do generative design of a city based on that, um, and make a game out of it that would look pretty freaking realistic, you know.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, holy hell, like this is where this is going, like we're gonna be out of work.
There's a lot of smart people at that fucking company, man. Like it's you're like I'm just sitting there with my Slayer shirt on, like just okay. I'm glad I work remote. Like, just like yeah, send me the shit I need to work on. But no,
Yeah,
dude, there's some really smart like fucking people out there, and dude, it's all over the place. Like it's all over the place. It's happening in medical stuff. It's happening in
yeah,
space exploration. And dude, it's even crazier. You have 3D guys like game people and shit are going into these fields. You know what
yeah.
I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like like Matthias, right? Like he works for fucking SpaceX, right?
Matthias Verhassel.
Yeah,
Oh, did he left Blizzard? I didn't even know. Oh,
yeah.
damn, that's awesome. Well, he was always like super into, um, like space stuff. So I'm
Yeah.
not surprised at all
He's a
that they would
fucking
pick him.
genius too, man.
Yeah, his work is like holy hell.
He's so fucking good.
Yeah,
He's got a good
that's
sense of humor
that's not
too.
surprising me at all. Yeah, Matthias is an awesome person.
Yeah.
I'm not surprised. Good for him, man. That's awesome.
I
That's
know
awesome.
it's crazy. It's cool like seeing like I don't know, like a lot of the guys and stuff that like I always whenever I talk about like Blizzard and stuff, that's kind of like where I grew up, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then like you got to work with him, got to work with Vitaly, got to work with Fausto, got to work with Seth and all these guys, and like they're all off doing like these crazy things. Like Baruvi's off always doing something fucking nuts, like
Yeah.
like you touch it and you're like, wow, dude, it's cool just to kind of see that like expanse,
Mm-hmm.
That's like one of the
Yeah.
really cool things about those kind of places.
Yeah, there's a ton of like really good people that came out from that whole Blizzard team. I think it was like even during the times that you were there. You know, Vitali and Barubi and Matthias. Like those guys are legit,
Oh yeah, dude. It was funny.
super
Like I
legit.
remember going to John's office and just watch him paint. Like I would bug the shit out of him. He'd be
Yeah,
like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, just fucking ignore me, man. Just do your thing. Like, uh, it was
Yeah.
so funny, man. Like, yeah, there's so many. It was such a cool time there too, you know. And it was funny too because that was right before, I would say, like, that was right at the end of, because I went there. Let's see, I left to go work on Halo 4, which is the end of the 360 cycle because Xbox One was coming out. So, that was right at that time when all of the, like the game stuff, I would say, was starting to get into a position to where it was like, oh, there's something here. Like, real time is going to be
Mm-hmm.
in this crazy space. And it's incredible the studio's still doing, like the pre-rendered stuff, like it just shows the talent that's there. And
Yeah.
fuck, dude, obviously you saw that Love, Death Robot
Yeah.
thing, man. Dude, I love Beyond the Achillea Rift. Dude, I've probably watched that thing like 1,000 times.
That one was okay. Like,
I just love the
I
rendering in
wasn't.
it, man.
Yeah, it was really well done for sure. It was
Yeah.
pretty good. I did like the ending. It was kind of surprising. It was kind of cool to see the ending being surprising like that. My favorite was obviously Alberto Mielgo stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was craziness. That was so good. I was like, okay, yeah, that's 100% Mielgo in like the best possible way.
It's crazy, like, when you actually, like, because I didn't realize how big of a production it was.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how many studios were involved in it. It's fucking nuts, man. It's cool to see, like, Tim doing that stuff still. It's like he's...
Yeah.
You know,
It was,
super...
yeah, it was, I think he was producing it, right? Or was he co-directing? I can't remember. I think Alberto was the director. I would have to look up the credits. I don't know. I think, like, Tim was, like, Tim and David Fincher, right? Those were the two main guys behind the whole series, I think.
Yeah, and I think, gosh, who's
And
the...
I think Alberto was the director on that, the Witness part.
Mhm.
Yeah, Witness was like by far my favorite. That was so good, dude.
It's crazy. Like, I don't know. Like, I wonder if it's even possible to, like, because again, each of these disciplines they are disciplines, right? They're craft disciplines. Like, I wonder if it's possible to actually be able to do all of it.
By yourself?
I don't think it is. Like,
I don't know.
maybe.
I think it's just a matter of like how much time you have on your hands.
Yeah, no, that's a good point.
Because look at Ash.
Yeah.
Ash Thorpe.
Yeah.
Dude. Yeah, there you go. Here's a good example. Yeah, it's completely possible. So. Yeah.
No, what does he? Does he still? Is he? No, he does. Like, he does everything.
Yeah, like most of the films that he does, it's him and maybe like one more person. The Acura stuff, like he did it, I think, by himself and like one more person.
Dude,
Like
that's
one more
crazy.
guy. He's doing The Passage, the one that he's like been teasing. Yeah, that's just him and then maybe like one more guy. It's just a lot of work, Like it's a ton of work.
Mm-hmm.
But I like his philosophy, and I'm trying to learn as much as I can from him. We he's a good friend, so we talk pretty much all the time. But I love his philosophy. He's like the thing he does, and it actually comes back to, I don't know if you've watched Joe Rogan.
Love Joe Rogan.
When he had Kevin Hart on a show. Have you seen that episode?
I'm still watching like pieces of it.
Yeah, so like anyone who's listening, you guys should just do yourself a favor and watch that episode. Like take it for whatever you want to take it for, but I found it super inspiring. And one of the things that Kevin said was, it kind of comes from his, how he was raised as a kid, and it was really fascinating to learn, like, how his mom kind of pushed him to who he is.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the things his mom said to him was like, or his parents, like, they were always about him not giving up on things.
Yeah, you just gotta finish it,
Yeah, and so like if he would, how kids are, like we like to change our mind all the time. Like when you're a kid, you change your mind all the time, basically. But like if he would say like, I want to do baseball, and his parents would say like, do baseball, but if you start it, you're gonna finish it.
Mm-hmm.
And like 2 months later, I don't want to go anymore. It's like, no, we don't care. You're going. We're gonna force you to finish the season. So he would have to like finish it, and I kind of build his mentality that if he latches on something, he's not gonna give up. He's just gonna keep going. It comes down to like the personality, the kind of personality you have to have as a person. It's, I guess, partially genetics, partially how you're nurtured, and there's like all the other things, the external things that shape you as a person. Your general character traits as well. But yeah, it was fascinating. And when I going back to Ash, like Ash is sort of like almost like a representation of that. He latches on an idea of doing something, and then he finds what kind of tools and what kind of commitments have to be dedicated towards it. So it's not like, oh, I want to do a film, and then it gets really hard, and it's like, oh, I'm not doing it anymore. Because like vast majority of us are that way, including myself. Like I tend to try to stick to certain things as much as I can, but at the end of the day, we're kind of like, there's a lack. There's always like a certain lack of dedication at the end of the day. So that's something I'm trying to change with myself. But like if you think Ash and his films, and how he's doing it by himself, like this is exactly how. Like he's actually dedicating a ton of time, and he's not giving up.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's fascinating.
I mean, that's like the fun part too about like, it was probably like a year or so ago I started doing that indie game or whatever, and I was talking to Vitali about it, because like the fucking one of the biggest pain in the ass things about a lot of this stuff it's not necessarily the art. Like that stuff I've been doing a long time, but it's the programming, because I'm dyslexic, which I didn't really actually figure that out until I was at Blizzard, which is kind of explains a lot going through school. But like it's kind of fun to like, I don't know, it's been interesting to be able to like just kind of push through stuff. And then on the other side of it, you're like, the things that used to be super challenging aren't even things you think about anymore, right? It's just kind of getting through the suckage stage, at least in that regard. Yeah. I don't know. There's still like a million more things to do on that damn thing, though. It'll never end.
Yeah, how's that going? Like, what made you decide to do a game?
Let's see.
Is there anything out, or is it still under wraps?
There's some videos and stuff. I haven't updated any videos or anything.
What should I look for?
Anything you're going to find is probably way old, but you can look at it. It might be on the ArtStation thing. I don't know. But now I can't get my gizmo to come back. Wait, what did I tell you?
Control Shift X.
It's like, what the hell? It's like I was hitting it.
There's like a gameplay video on ArtStation.
Yeah. There's that. That's a really early version of it. It's like, this was like just the proof of concept stuff. That's where like all of this like weird gothic and all this ornate shit's been coming from. Is because
right.
Like a little backstory on the thing is I'm very fascinated by productions. Like I think they're just super interesting, and I wanted to see if there's a way you could build a game and then have all that content leveraged for something else, like later on down the road. So like version 2 of the game.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, okay, I have like 3 big things I want to try and attack with this fucking project. The first is going to be the programming side, which thank God I was ignorant to how hard it was going to be, because I don't know if I would have done that.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like deadlifting a shitload of weight. You don't really know until you're kind of doing it.
Right.
And then I wanted to do the production pipeline. So I was like, okay, well, what kind of art do I want to do on it? I was like, well, I understand the 3D stuff pretty well. but I've never done a 2D game before. And I was like, well, the 2D game's got to be easier than doing a 3D game because it's just one dimension, like a
Mm-hmm.
jackass. I didn't realize that there's more than just the art that's associated with it. And like Unreal is not particularly the kind of engine that you want to do this kind of a game in.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then the third goal was to actually really deep dive into Unreal to the most that I could. And Lord behold, using the engine for something that it's not exactly geared for is a great way to do that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you learn all the performance specs, and then, you know, how do you build stuff on iOS? How do you get stuff to deploy on an Xbox and a PlayStation? You know, and just kind of walking through that, because there's not that stuff. There isn't really any information on, right? I just have to bug some programming friends and
Yeah.
keep hitting it until it works. You know.
What do you think about Houdini? Have you ever tried Houdini?
So when I was at Blizzard, I actually tried to get into Houdini. A friend of mine, Rudy, he actually, dude, this guy wrote like a RenderMan book. He's a super smart fucking dude, and he started getting me into a little bit of it, and then I did a little bit of stuff like procedural building generation with it.
Yeah, the new version
And
apparently has like it's an actual built-in tool where you can do buildings. You know, you just like it's almost like a rail cone for
mhm.
3ds Max, but like inside Houdini. Yeah, I've been playing around with it. I would say like for anything particle related, it's like you cannot find a better choice. You know, better software choice. Like 100%, it's hands down the best option for anything particles.
Have you fucked around with Tyflow at all, by the way? Speaking of like Macs and stuff,
No, but
dude.
I'll tell you, like I don't see, like, after seeing what Houdini can do, I don't think there's a reason for me to even try it. Like, I'll be honest with you, like, why would I try something that is a plugin, right?
Hmm.
Compared to a software that is dedicated to it, and it's been like industry standard, and it's amazing and it's awesome to use, and it's all nodal based, and it actually do have like almost like a Go Z connection with pretty much any other software. You can like Go Z your procedural stuff right into, for lack of a better word, Go Z. It's actually called a Houdini engine,
Hmm.
which translates all the coding you do, all the algorithmic stuff, all the nodal things from Houdini right into the other software, and it has a similar connection with Unreal Engine as well. So
Yeah,
you
the
can
Unreal stuff is rad.
so you can build quite crazy stuff there.
So, I mean, the reason why I like Tyflow for a few different reasons. A, it's ridiculously simple to use,
Hmm.
which, you know, again, sometimes you need a hammer, sometimes you need a nail, sometimes you need a screwdriver,
Right.
you know, and that's kind of how I actually am like trying to evaluate like this different software and shit. I mean, dude, I'm not going to argue about Houdini's power. Obviously, it's incredible. But if you need something fast and that looks good, and
Hmm.
you want to keep it inside of your DCC, this is hella fucking impressive. It's not as robust as Thinking Particles is, but it's not as complicated.
Right.
And it's kind of like this is the first gen of that
Hmm.
launch. So seeing like what people are already doing off of it with the beta,
Hmm.
it's fucking nuts. And the other thing that seems really good about it is the community seems really strong for it. So I'm really excited to see where they go with it, or well, Tyson takes it, I guess.
Right. So it's like a one person endeavor right now.
Yeah, I believe so. Again, I'm just following the Facebook group, so I'm
Hmm.
sure there are people that know a hell of a lot more about it than I do. But it's kind of like I don't know. I kind of get the vibe like I'm using like FStorm a shitload right now.
Hmm.
It's kind of like that. It's kind of like a garage dude, kind of just doing his thing,
Right. Right.
which is
Right.
kind of
Right.
nice.
No, I mean, from what I saw, it looks amazing. Don't get me wrong. It's a similar concept as with Blender. So
Mhm.
I might actually give it a try. Why not? I mean, if you're saying it's super easy to pick up and learn and do quite amazing stuff right from the get go, it's exactly how I feel with Houdini with certain stuff, like making clouds or making cloth simulations.
Dude, their
Um,
Vellum solver is fucking incredible.
yeah, it's
Holy
an
shit.
insanity. Like,
Dude, that's on a whole other different level. Like,
yeah,
that thing's nuts.
you
My
can see
friend
my screen,
Ryan.
yeah.
Yeah,
People
yeah,
cannot see my screen. I'm not gonna show this because I'm doing it. I actually did show it, but like I've built this kind of like bullet
yeah.
hitting the cloth in
Yeah.
like, I don't know, 20 minutes. It took me about an hour to learn this,
Oh, nice.
and then like and then like 5 minutes to set it up. Actually, let me see if I can show that stuff. It took me about an hour to learn how to do it, then about another, I don't know, like 20 minutes to set it up.
Yeah, my friend Ryan, he's guy's a fucking wizard. He's super
And then
smart dude.
another, I guess 20 minutes to, like 20 minutes to set it up through the tutorial.
Well, that's what Ryan was saying. He's been trying to do like he was showing me like he took a bunch of like my creature dudes and put cloth and shit on them, and like these things were like these weren't set up for game ready. These were the high res dudes, and he was running them through the Vellum solvers,
Yeah.
and they were just it was just chewing through it.
Yeah. There's a very interesting thing about Houdini, the way it works. It's like a regular software, any other or most of the software, when you do any kind of like calculation, let's say particle calculation in Max with PF Flow, or even if you go to Cinema 4D, X Particles, all of those, plugins, the way it works is, let's say you have like a bunch of operations that are supposed to be done on the solver that give you the final result. They go like one by one. So it starts from the root, then figures out what's the next thing, calculated, figures out what's after, calculated, figures out what's after, calculated, and then so on, right?
Hmm.
Apparently, the way it works with Houdini is that it calculates everything all at once. Like
What?
every single node is considered to be separate and referenced to. There's like, it's linking to everything else, so it's solving itself parallel almost. So if you have like certain nodes connected to one another, it's not gonna wait till one node is calculated. It's gonna calculate everything else that needs to be calculated within the first node, and then everything that has to be calculated within the other node. And unless there's like a specific dependency, then it will I guess will wait or calculate things that you don't have to wait for, but it'll all be done parallel.
See,
That's why it works that fast. Like the Vellum stuff works super fast. Like this would take me forever in Max, dude. Like imagine how long this would render. Like just to sort of like solve the tiering.
hmm.
This kind of stuff, right? It would take quite a time, don't you think?
And you don't even have intersections, right? Which is pretty seems like pretty legit.
What do you mean intersections?
Like the cloth isn't like folding in on itself, and
Oh yeah. It's like, so yeah,
like
it's pretty legit.
yeah, dude, it looks awesome.
Let's see. Let me go and check if I can change like one or two properties here,
How do I full
so you can
screen
actually
scan?
see. Yeah, let me check like let me just do like one super quick change. So this is how quickly it calculates this thing.
That's cool. Yeah, that's pretty rad.
And it
You
just
should,
works, dude. It's insane. It's so good.
that's
Yeah, and you
awesome.
have like all the like, if you go here, it's exactly what you said with Tyflow. Like the Vellum works that way. You still have to set up the tree in order for it to work properly.
Hmm.
It's not too difficult. Like once you understand the philosophy behind Houdini, it actually gets pretty easy. The only thing is like it's almost like if you want to do more complex and more customized stuff, not customized in a sense of like I want to change the velocity or like how the cloth is steering and all that, but if you want to do like super crazy weird customized things, then you kind of want to know how to program a little bit
Mm-hmm.
and put commands and like connections and build connections through code, that makes it work better. But like once you understand philosophy, then you just know what has to be set up and what nodes have to be connected, because everything happens here within the node system. So like when I open this, like a lot of this doesn't make sense to me. Like import,
Mm-hmm.
like this makes sense. Import geometry, remove normals, set up cusp angles. Like all of that makes sense, but it's
Mm-hmm.
all built. It's all created automatically.
Oh, nice, nice,
It's
nice. That
you
sets
don't have to
everything.
yeah, you don't have to set up anything. You just literally go to those shelves here, or you tab and then you let's if I want to create a new sphere, for instance, right? I just type in and I create a sphere, and it's gonna be in the scene when I drop it, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's right here. It's not reacting because it's not set up to react with anything, but I can set it up to react with something, right? So like you can do it by just going to a shelf. Let's say, you can make this to be a cloth. All you have to do, let me actually stop the animation. Like all you have to do is just like click this, click the sphere, and click enter, and now it's a cloth.
Nice.
Well, it's gonna calculate it, but that's how it basically works, right? It's as simple as that. I don't know. This is gonna probably crash. No, there we go. I don't know if it's gonna react to anything, but it should have the. Let's see. Yeah, it's falling down. If I go back to the sphere, yeah, see, it's set up as a cloth.
That's fucking cool.
So it technically should react as a cloth, but I have like an intricate animation going on here. So,
You should
but
definitely check out Typhlo, though. I'm not saying that this isn't cool, because it's definitely fucking cool.
no, yeah, I will. I'm pretty sure it's pretty rad. But it's the same thing with clouds and fire and everything, dude. So like, you literally
The
have
cloud thing, show me the cloud thing. Do you have that? Or does it probably take time to set up? I can probably Google
no,
it.
it's so easy. It's so easy.
I gotta figure out how to full screen Skype.
So let's see, cloud. Boom. Oh wait, hold on. Let me see. So all you have to do is let's create a sphere, and then you go in that sphere inside, and then here you type cloud, and you connect it, and now it's a cloud.
That's stupid.
And from here you go cloud noise,
Uh-huh.
and now it's a noisy cloud.
Oh, that's neat.
And you can drop, let's say, mountain, and then change parameters here. Let's see how it looks.
Their
I
mantra
probably have to
render is really
do
good too.
like subdivision or something. Yeah, subdivide. Oh, I know what I have to do. This has to be a polygon mesh. There you go. Because it can be primitive, it can be polygon mesh. So you like change the shape, and then when you go to cloud,
Nice.
it's an actual volumetric, and then you can like like this. How long did it take me? A minute, right?
Yeah.
And then you do convert VDB, and then you can convert it to polygon.
Oh, really?
Let's see. Actually, what I do here, I found out this trick. You convert it to volume, and then you do a convert. I don't know what I clicked. I'm still learning this shit, by the way.
Dude, no, you're fucking further ahead than I. That's cool, man.
Actually, I think you can go convert, like right here. and then you convert it to polygon, and I think that this you convert to VDB. I can't remember like what was the setup, but this you can, like, if you convert VDB, then you can save it as VDB, import to, you know, Octane, 3ds Max, any of those programs, and load it as volume and render.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'm just gonna render.
Oh, that's pretty neat.
So when you see like, you know, like people having like awesome looking volumetrics in their renders, it's like it's all VDB stuff.
Oh, I had no idea that.
Yeah. Dude,
That's
it's
awesome.
the same exact philosophy with like Pyro. If you just like, yeah, so let me see. Let's make sphere. Let's get that sphere smaller for now. And then like and let's say we want to have explosion, right? So you click, yeah, you click explosion, and then you just play it.
Dude, fucking awesome.
And then you can set up like geometry that's gonna react with, and then you have like all the settings to change.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, but it's just like
It's so much more straightforward than Fume.
Yeah, it's just like there's literally no thinking. Like this is, I mean the representation of that here is kind of shitty, but like you can, again, like this, you just go and the pyrosim, I think, the output. I think you can just save. I can't remember where you save that shit. It might be here. Import to Pyro. Let's see. Sphere source. It might be this. Like one of those nodes. I can't remember. Like I'm still kind of learning when you're using those weird mechanics.
Mm-hmm.
Like for explosion, fireball, all that stuff. I'm still kind of learning like where you actually have to export it from and whatnot. But I've been learning this software for like 3 hours. So
Yeah, you started tonight. That's hilarious.
I mean, learning, because like sitting and then just like adjusting shit is not really for me. Learning is more like a practice. But learning what shit does, that's basically what it was. Like 3 hours. So here, if you go to cloud, you can scattered shape, visualize as polygons. There you go.
Oh, wow.
And then you can like export mesh out of it too. Yeah, Houdini, dude. Houdini is amazing.
That's cool.
It's amazing. The more I learn about it, the more awesome it is, you know. It's just like, and it's all nodes, and you can like take any of those nodes, and let's say you do a tree that has like a very specific, I don't know what happened here. Oh, it crashed. There you go. It does crash like any other software. But let's say like you build a tree that you really like, and you would want to repeat it with like some other things, and just plug it to some other things. You can do that.
Oh, so you can like create out presets and that kind of shit.
You can. It's basically you can build like trees that become tools. Basically, you know. It's pretty.
That's
dope.
Pretty rad.
Yeah, it's pretty rad. It's pretty awesome.
I'll send you this little thing because let me find this. And, okay.
Yeah, that's basically what it is. Like, fucking create a sphere, click explosion, done.
That is.
And then obviously, like you have to go through all the conundrum of setting up things and setting up different parameters if you want to like do more of a billowy smoke and shit like that.
Mm-hmm.
It will take a little more time because then you have to learn like what the nodes do exactly and whatnot.
The Phoenix is also pretty good. Have you fucked around Phoenix at all?
No, I know what it is though. I've heard what it is, but I haven't tried it.
Phoenix is dude, it's fucking rad. Like it's pretty straightforward. and it plugs straight into V-Ray, which is really fucking nice. But the viewport preview is super, super robust.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny. I've paid for courses on your guys' site, and I haven't taken them because I haven't had time.
Stupid.
I know. I'm like, I'm gonna get to this eventually, dude. Like that's like when I just got off of vacation, and I was like, dude, I'm gonna go through a bunch of Gumroad tutorials that I paid for that I've never done. Like,
Yeah, so
hundreds of dollars.
we have Adam Swab. He did like 2 Houdini courses. They're like
Oh,
10
sick.
hours, 10 hours each.
Okay, I'm gonna jump on
They're
that. Fucking
He's
rad.
like probably one of the best people to learn from, you know.
Yeah, let me look at that. Squared
Swab.
courses.
I'm actually picking it up right now because I haven't been learning Houdini for a long time. Like I always wanted to learn it, but I've never actually done it. But now I can because I own those courses.
They're mine. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
guys, you should check Adam. Like his work is fucking amazing, and he's so you know,
Here
the
it
way
is.
he teaches, like he goes through all the details and everything. It's pretty amazing.
Oh yeah, dude. This looks super fucking cool.
Yeah, his work is pretty stunning too.
Dude, that's rad. Yeah, no, Houdini's super, super powerful. Dude, this is cool, man. I like seeing all the students work too.
Dude, it has terrain. Like you can basically do world machine with it, and on like a completely awesome level because it's like a modeling tool. Like everything is there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's pretty stunning. Like all of that is Houdini. It's pretty stunning.
What?
Like you can build like this whole scene you're seeing here with the explosions and water, particles, like everything you can do in Houdini. And it has like an internal renderer. It's called Mantra.
Yeah, Mantra's really, really good.
So like it's probably one of the, like if you want to do VFX, it's probably like one stop shop, you know. It's not the best in all the fields, right? Like for any kinds of modeling and whatnot, you're gonna get better software for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, shamelessly plugging the classes, dude. Like if you guys want to learn, I'm not gonna lie, this is awesome. Like it's just like it walks you through the software. What do you need to learn from it? Like step by step, how to set up scenes correctly. One is like the procedural foundations, which is basically like a generative design. So like when you see this splash screen, it's like you can build, generative meshes really quickly. But it kind of goes through like all of the Gravel tools, all that cool stuff. You can see some student work here too.
Hmm.
People
That's
building
awesome.
people building CDs, dude. Yeah.
That's
Just
super,
and it's
super
all like
rad.
scattering. Like you just build a couple of like different buildings, and then you have like a internal scattering tools. Like everything works pretty well. It's pretty awesome. And then he did another class with us, which is the particle stuff.
That's the stuff I'm interested in. Where's that
Yeah,
at?
it's right here. Houdini particles. So it kind of walks you through how to set up particles, different ones.
Stations. Okay.
And yeah, it's for like non-commercial use. It's free. I think the only limitation of Houdini right now, like if you use non-commercial license, is that the renderers in Mantra are watermarked and limited in size, and
Mm.
you cannot export Alembic and FBX animations, but you can export stills, VDBs, everything. Like like the CD shots I did. Um, I'll show it to you guys. This stuff. This stuff right here.
Mm-hmm.
All the volumetrics, because this is just renders, right?
Mhm.
All the volumetrics are just like quick Houdini clouds that I made, and just
Oh, using the
dra-
BDB thing.
yeah, and just drag and drop to 3ds Max and rendered. I think
N-
those are rendered with Octane, by the way.
Do you render out of Max with Octane?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oh, nice, nice.
I hate using standalone. I hate it. I know it's awesome, especially for like the displacement maps. It
Hmm.
works with displacement maps so well. Octane, that is.
Hmm.
But it's just like being forced to go back and forth. Like if you're, I like to iterate on the scenes all the time. I just hate starting a scene and then being forced to go back to another software and do export. I hate
Yeah.
that. I hate that. I like to be within like one environment and only jump if I have to
Hmm.
something else. That's why I feel like Blender has a pretty bright future because like they've tackled um, quite a few interesting fronts. They made it pretty decent for sculpting. They made it really awesome for modeling. It has Eevee, which is sort of like, I guess, like a version of Unreal Engine. Cycles is pretty good. It's not as good as V-Ray, but it's pretty good. Um, I don't know how it is for animation. I never used it for animation. It has pretty decent particle systems, so like everything is there. The buildings I built myself actually. I made them like from scratch.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. I have like my own mega city kit, dude. Like all of those I've built myself. I used Fusion 360 to build them.
Oh, really? You built all the buildings out of
Yeah,
Fusion?
it's freaking simple as hell, dude.
That's crazy.
It's
That's
pretty
hilarious.
simple. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
awesome, dude. It's all of that stuff is awesome.
There's so much shit to learn, you know?
Yeah.
Just not enough time in the day.
Yeah,
But
how do you approach that? Like, do you like learning new stuff? Like, what is
I
your
fucking love
philosophy?
it, dude. That's like I dude, it's funny. It is more important. Like I would rather be learning new shit than really fucking doing anything else. I don't know. I'm fascinated by it all.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't know. Like it's funny because like I don't get me wrong. I like doing art just for the sake of doing art. Like I think
Mm-hmm.
all of us do. But I'm if I had to weigh it, I'm far more interested in learning shit. Like the outcome is cool, but like because they're like it's nice to have people like the shit you're working on, but it's the learning aspect for me that's probably the
Mm-hmm.
most important by a long shot.
Right. Right. Right.
Um,
Right.
that's always where I've been the happiest is like I don't know trying to solve problems and then like after you get through the problem or whatever you're trying to solve, like for me at least, it suddenly becomes kind of boring. I'm like, oh, okay, what's next? So
Yeah. I get it. I get it. I'm
I
trying
mean,
to. Um, I've been pretty stagnant when it comes down to learning past, I don't know, year and a half. I just decided like I just need a break, dude. I've been like trying to learn everything all at once.
uh huh.
It's it's maybe it's healthy just to stop for a second, like just to relax and just use what I need to use for now. And I've been pretty lucky because some of the projects I've been working on recently, they only required me to use Photoshop, which was kind of crazy. It's like, oh, I don't have to learn anything else for now because like Photoshop is the tool of choice for pretty much vast majority of the work that I'm doing right now.
Oh, dude, that's rad.
So up until I started with Sony, for which like I specifically spent like a couple of days picking up um what's 3D code
Hmm.
because I knew it's gonna be awesome for it specifically.
Yeah.
Um,
Dude, I can't swear enough by that software.
yeah, you use it more than ZBrush, right?
I'm
Or
kind of in both, right? It depends on what I'm doing. Like for environment stuff, it's more code, like characters and stuff. It's probably more ZBrush. But
mm-hmm,
um, if I have to do anything that is like super complex, like environment stuff, short of like really hardcore modeling stuff, like a lot of the ornate stuff, you just can't really cheat that. You just have to fucking do it, unless you have a kit or whatever.
mm-hmm.
Uh, but I end up going straight through 3D Coat.
Yeah.
I mean, there are some things that I wish Coat did a little better, but I'm sure it'll eventually get there. But every once in a while, I get really weird slowdowns with 3D Coat, and I don't know if it's like a driver issue or what.
Mm-hmm.
But then I have scenes that are like hundreds of millions of polys in the thing, and it just chews through it. So I don't really understand.
Right. I don't know. I think all of the software out there is that way.
Yeah, it's crazy like how much more powerful the graphics cards have gotten now that like you don't even think about. I mean, you're supposed to,
Yeah,
but you don't really think.
you get
Much
it and then you
poly counts.
forget. It's like,
Yeah,
ooh.
like oh, that's cool.
Yeah, like you're excited for like a first day, and then like you forget, and then if you work with someone else's computer or you go to a studio or something and it has like a worse card, or
Dude, that's the
then
worst,
you
man.
have, it's like, what is this shit? Doesn't work.
Oh yeah, dude. And then you're like panicking because you're like,
Super
fuck,
frustrated.
I told him I could do this shit.
Yeah.
But let's see, import OBJ to garment. Load as garment. Why are you not doing that?
Kind of doing brainless work right now.
Yeah, I'm just messing around right now and Marvelous.
Which is cool. Dude, we've mentioned something that we wanted to talk about like right before. I can't remember what that was.
Social media?
Oh, yeah. I think we
Oh,
want.
we talked.
Yeah, we talked about it a little bit right before. Yeah, what is your approach? Because I've been talking about social media for a while now. And I'm pretty sure like for those who are listening to the podcast, you guys already know like what is my approach. But I'll be curious like how are you approaching it? Because you had a pretty interesting thinking process before we joined. Like how you actually feel about it.
It's weird, man. Like
it's gonna crash again. Fuck.
It's like that Max hang where you're like, come on, man, just stay with me, man. It's like being like a trauma surgeon. No, I mean, it's funny because like it's a full-time job to keep up with that stuff, and it eventually, like, at least in the last little bit of time, like I've had to kind of I only have so many time buckets, right? Like I have all of the shit, like my wife and my family and all of that. I have my job, and all of that stuff. And then I have, all my side shit, that I want to do. So like there's only so much that I can really delegate to it. And I don't know, I think like I'm fucking no expert at any stretch of that stuff. I mean, I'm just kind of like, after Facebook changed the way that they did some stuff, I just was like, okay, I'm just gonna stop. It's too much effort to keep up with it. So I mean, I just honestly just post like on Instagram and ArtStation a little bit. Like I don't have followers. I have hardly any followers on that stuff. But I don't know. I try to leverage more on the tech and the knowledge side. It helps. But I wish I was better at it. Like, just because it does get, like, this is, because I work from home, and it does get lonely. So, like, it's nice to, get a like or whatever. I'm like, aw, someone gives a shit. But, yeah, it's a ton of work. So, I mean, I don't know. I've just kind of been focusing on, like, trying to actually, like, grow, like, the skill set outright. And that goes back to that Kevin Hart thing that, I mean... I don't know, like, for me, I'm kind of interested to see how far out I can stretch a little bit. I kind of want to know where the wall is.
Right.
So we'll see. I don't know. I don't really understand social media as well as I should. I feel old, but it's all just heavy metal and bitching, so I don't know.
Like... My take on social media changed a couple of years ago. I think like 4 or 5 years ago, I've noticed it's just not making me happy at all, like at all.
Yeah.
I've never. It just created this ebbs and flows of being excited about what I see and then being pissed off and kind of like just becoming like this sort of envious person, you know?
Yeah,
'Cause
absolutely.
there's this saying, the grass is always greener on the other side.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
I think like the eye-opening moments were to, talk with the friends that I have, which pretty much all of them, I don't know how they are doing it now, but back then would always post on social media. You would always see someone posting something awesome about their lives,
Mm-hmm.
and you would be like, oh man, like his life must be awesome.
Yeah, dude.
and then and then you would talk with them in person and realize, oh, I have this fucking disease, like it's not going well with my family, like I've been depressed. Like you start to learn that
People are
all
posting that.
of what they do and what I've been doing myself on social media is just to show off and sort of like kill your insecurities and be validated by everyone else. And the moment I realized that, I was like, oh, I'm doing it wrong.
Oh, I mean, it's like it's a growth process. I think I don't know. Like I hear a lot of people saying like it hasn't made them happy, and like, dude, for me it was just stressing me the fuck out. Like I was just like I'm like because like I like to do big environment sets and shit.
Mm.
That stuff fucking takes time. I don't care how fast you are. It takes time, especially if you're modeling it from
Yeah, how
scratch.
many times you would hear someone saying, it took me 20 minutes to build this whole thing. It's like, oh, really?
Yeah, yeah. I'm like, okay. No, but I mean, so I mean, I don't know. It's been, dude, as weird as it sounds, it's been nice to kind of put my hermit shell on and listen to fucking heavy metal.
Mm.
And that's one of the nice things about going back up to Washington is I needed to get out of it. I kind of feel um, like one of my favorite fucking movies is Rocky Four, where he fights the huge Russian. I love
Yeah,
that movie. Like the training
Ivan
sequence
Drago.
where yeah, dude. Like when he's like running through the fucking like woods and shit. That's how I feel like I am right now. I'm training right now. I'm just kind of, I've had a lot of people like, hey, why aren't you doing tutorials and that kind of stuff? Like, there's a lot of good information out there, and I kind of want to take the time right now to learn.
Yeah.
Like it. I think that I don't know if that's like a good thing or a bad thing, but I wanna learn. Like that's what it's coming back to. And I don't want to get hung up on because like for a while, dude, I was totally there. Like I was like, oh my god, I don't have any followers, I don't have any likes or any of that kind of shit, and it was burning me the fuck out. And that's not
Mm.
what I started doing this shit in the first fucking place for. Like like most of the shit that I like all the metal and stuff, like no one's ever heard of. Like all the stuff I enjoy, like no one gives
Yeah.
a shit about. So and then like my wife actually brought that up. She's like, why do you care about that shit? She's like, you got a good job, you make good money. She's like, the stuff that you actually do enjoy, no one's ever fucking heard of. Like, and she's like, that's okay. There's still, some people it makes it happy, but like, Lemmy from Motorhead, he said something one time and it really resonated. He's like, he's talking about playing music and he goes, he's like, I do music for me. That's kind of the
Yeah.
P session of it. And like my personal art, that shit is for me. Like I'm learning and it's for production and there's goals and stuff with it. That stuff is for me. It is therapy, like
Mm.
it helps me process and all that kind of stuff. And, if people like it, great. If not, that's cool too.
Yeah.
And I'm just good. And luckily, ArtStation has so many good artists out there that like there is never going to be a shortage of good environment people, and the world will continue to spin, and I can keep doing my thing.
Yeah. 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 The thing about ArtStation too is, you know, one of the reasons, like I like to look at what people are doing. It's awesome to be inspired, but there's one thing I think everyone has to realize is it's very easy to get caught up by feeling like, oh, everyone is doing so much. Because you look at ArtStation, there's just the sheer volume of how much stuff is being posted every day. Like
Yeah.
it can get to you. It's like,
Oh fuck
wow,
yeah.
I'm like not doing enough. Like it
Yeah.
can really get you. And so I think we have to be careful about that, because so I've said this before. What I did with social media is very simple. I unsubscribe from everybody. I literally have like 5 subscriptions on my, or followers on my Twitter. 2 of them are my school and my podcast. And then I think I have Vitali, Ash, and Ash's podcast. That's about it. There's like
Nice.
5 people. I think I have like 20 people on Instagram, which is like mostly like super inspirational, you know, super inspiring artists, and then a bunch of comedians that I really like. And that's it. And you know what it made me realize, like almost a day after, like when you unsubscribe from everyone, a day after you realize that whether you are on social media or not, the world is still spinning.
Yeah.
And like you might be thinking that there's lots and lots going on. Like subscribe only to one of your favorite artists and see how often they post. They actually post like awesome work. And you quickly realize is that, oh, they only post when they're done with the project, and it's only like every now and then, like maybe once a year. You know?
Yeah.
It's like, I'm not lazy at all.
Well, dude, yeah, man. Like the lazy thing is like a big thing too. It's like I always feel like I'm like behind, and again, that goes back to exactly what you just hit the, you kind of hit the nail on the head. You know, it you get overwhelmed by it. Like
Yeah.
and honestly, like me taking a step back away from a lot of that stuff kind of opened me up to doing a hell of a lot more shit. And
Mhm.
also being, you know, I don't know, not caring is really fucking nice, man. There's a book, it's like the subtle art to not giving a fuck. I don't know if you ever... dude, it helps, man. Like that stuff is very, 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 very true.
Yeah.
And I mean, dude, like it's interesting, you know, the thing, we talked a little bit about this earlier, like, you know, like the fire that happened today, right?
Oh yeah. It's
Dude,
crazy. I don't.
like,
I'll just maybe say that because some of you might not be reading any news whatsoever. I don't read news. I just got that from, you know, Andrew texted me like, dude, did you hear what happened in like what's happening with Notre Dame? I was like, what? Let me check. And oh my god, like that's the worst thing. So for everyone who's listening, live, yeah, Notre Dame, it's pretty much almost destroyed.
mhm.
It's just like like more than half of it is gone. It just all went ablaze. There's like horrific shots of like drone videos and shots where you see like the whole roof being on fire, and then the spire just basically collapsing down. It's kind of heartbreaking to see that happening. It made me realize like, oh, like nothing lasts forever.
It's all temporary, man.
Yeah.
And like, dude, that's
Um,
something too about the social media stuff is that eventually the ride does end. You know, like I was watching something that Ash said, and he like mapped out like down to the minute, I think, about like how long the average person stays alive. Like, and he's like, "This is how much time you have. Like, what are you gonna do with it, right?"
yeah.
And you know, it's funny like how a lot of this stuff becomes distractions, right? And it
Yeah.
just kind of,
Exactly.
and even like, you know, with the stuff that happened, it does eventually go away, right? So I don't know. I think at a certain point, like I'll always continue to do art. Like I think like even if I suddenly one day was like I'm gonna go and do finance, which I should never do because I can't even manage my own money, but actually maybe that's a good idea. I'm just kidding. It's super dark.
Yeah, it's actually a pretty good idea to learn
Yeah.
finances. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, I need to get better at it for sure. I got to stop buying guitars. It's like my wife's out of town. I don't think she's listening to this, but she's out of town, and I've been trying like for years. I wanted to get it's called the Iron Maiden Classic. It's a Fender Stratocaster.
Hmm.
It super overpriced Fender, and like, dude, this is how I can tell I'm getting older. Is because I had the option to buy this thing and I didn't buy it. Like I made an active choice, like an adult choice, being like, wait to make sure the mortgage goes through.
Yeah.
Before you buy that guitar.
Um, Yeah, it's obsession, dude. It's obsession.
Dude, it's
You
fun
like
though,
music.
right?
Yeah, it's like it's a fun thing to do. So like, why
It's a
not?
release, right?
Hmm.
Like, and it all of like it's funny like that when I was in art school, one of the professors he'd always say like the importance of getting out and getting away from the computer, and I thought the guy was just like, I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, I'm gonna live in front of a computer. Why do I need to get away from it? I need to spend more time in front of it, if anything. And it's funny how like the activities and stuff that are totally detached from kind of what, at least for me, like what I do like day
Hmm.
in and day out, how much benefit it actually makes the stuff I do day in and day out, if that makes
Yeah,
any sense.
it
Like
does.
surfing and that kind of shit, like it's huge, you know.
Yeah, it gives you like a time to reset. Gives you time to think.
Oh
You know,
yeah, man.
there's a lot of people talk about self reflection and meditation, visualization, like the art of visualization. So like, like you're just sitting down and visualizing a task you want to perform, or what you want to do in the future, all those kind of things, right?
Hmm.
There's something about, and I remember reading that there's I can't remember where I read it though. Um, but there are scientific papers that talk about how important it is for the brain, because they're like, you're resetting, um, you're giving your brain a moment to reset and
Hmm.
think, instead of like always running and always thinking on the same wavelengths. And there's something to be said about the fact that if you're allowing yourself to dream a little bit, like think about what are you gonna do, and not always just do, like just think sometimes what to do instead of just doing. But like that's basically what visualizing is. Like you're allowing yourself to think before you do. Um,
That's why I like yoga so much, man. It helps clear your head.
oh
Like,
yeah, yoga would be like a great extension of that, right?
dude, like hot yoga, like Bikram yoga. Fuck, dude. I don't know if you're like super into like physical
I've
stuff.
done it
It's
before. It's
I love it,
crazy.
dude. It's the shit. I powerlift, martial arts, all that shit. It is the hardest fucking thing I do
Yeah.
by
Do you
a
do any
long
martial
shot.
arts, by the way?
Yeah. I do Krav and I do Arnis.
Mm. Okay. Okay.
Um, it's cool stuff,
Yeah, I
man.
want to get back to martial arts eventually. It's just like it's the constant battle between, realizing that you sometimes have to, you know, allow yourself to get tired.
Yeah, it makes you feel human though. Like
Yeah.
that pain. I don't even call it pain, but like the tension of working out and exercise and that kind of stuff, it's
Mm-hmm.
very human, it's very pure, and and for me, like that's why I like living out like in the fucking woods and stuff, because everything we do is so digital, it's so not tangible, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, you can 3D print the stuff if you want, but it's nice to be able to get back to stuff that's more realistic. um,
Yeah.
yeah, and that the physical side of it is really really good. But do you have any like cool big things that you're like fun side projects and stuff that you're working on?
I'm doing one right now.
Yeah, the anime stuff.
Yeah, I'm trying. We'll see where it goes, obviously, but it's I'm trying to do something. Trying to do something. How about
Yeah,
you're doing a game? Like we already.
yeah, that'll
How
keep
far
me
in
going.
you are with this?
I am to the point where if I stop now, I'm gonna shoot myself. So I need to finish it. No, I mean it's if I had to put a percentage, I mean I don't know. I've gone back and I've rebooted it, so I'm probably about like a 50% there. Like probably about 5 months ago, I was probably at 75 to 80% of where I was originally going to do it.
Mm. But you
Because
decided like
originally,
change things around.
yeah, yeah, it was it. So when I at a certain point, like the original goal was just to get. I didn't even care if it was even fun. I just wanted to get something out, put it on iOS, and have it playable, so you could do that.
Mm-hmm.
And when I did that, I was like, okay, that's kind of cool, but it it wasn't where I wanted it to be. Obviously, it wasn't like a good
Mm.
product. And then I was like, okay, well, let's just keep going with this. Let's see if I can get this thing to fucking run like on an Xbox. And I did, and got that going. And then like I was showing friends and stuff it, and they all had great feedback. And as I'm like implementing the feedback, Lord behold, it's getting the game and stuff's getting better and better and better and better and better as it keeps
Mm.
going. And then I was talking to my wife about it, and I was like, I've spent a year on this. I don't ever spend any time like that on personal work ever. Like it's 2 to 3 weeks and it's out. Like I just got to move quick.
Yeah.
Um, and she's like, why don't you just do something different with this? Because like I can still I'm still doing personal art on the side. It's not like I'm not doing other things. So and then doing that, I changed the art direction on it, expanded the scope a lot,
Hmm.
which probably isn't good for doing these kind of things, but I'm writing the story for it and all of that, and so it'll be cool. I mean, it'll probably, just because of the cost associated with it, it'll probably just end up like on Steam and the Epic Store.
Hmm.
But I got it running on consoles, which was fucking really weird. It was kind of cool to sit in my underwear in the living room and play on my my Xbox. My wife's like, "What the hell are you doing?" I'm like, "It's my video game."
That's awesome, dude.
Yeah, I mean it's just it again, like the whole point of it was never to do, the whole point of it was to learn.
Hmm.
And I'm doing that, and I think if I stop, I mean, and then obviously at this point I just got to finish it. It doesn't even really matter if it's good or not. I'm going to learn a bunch of shit getting it out there. Um
Yeah, the experience of starting a process and then going all the way through
well, and
and
then even
knowing
just
like,
dealing with the legal stuff too, and like talking, going through that whole, like, that's stuff that you're just not exposed to
yeah,
as an
oh
artist.
yeah, yeah,
There's a huge fucking business side of this, and if you're not really careful, you can not only really wreck yourself financially, but you can lose your entire project, right? And
yeah.
it's kind of cool to interface with that, because those conversations have gotten me talking to people that I never thought I would ever talk to,
Hmm.
and builds different relationships and stuff. So it's still going. It'll keep going, and you guys will keep seeing monsters probably for at least the next 6 months. So that aren't particularly great, but I'm gonna keep building them because it's fun.
Yeah, it's a process, like it never looks good when you start, especially if you're learning something new.
It's like an
um
ugly teenager, man.
yeah,
Like growing up, it's like going back
yeah, you
through
got
puberty.
cysts all over your face
Yeah,
and
man. I just literally just popped a zit on my arm. I was like, oh. But yeah, it's cool. No, the game, and then I'm doing like a pretty big sci-fi little piece here, which is fun because I've taken, like, I wanted to, like, week or so ago, I was like, oh, I want to get back into Marvelous. I haven't been doing anything in Marvelous. I started taking a bunch of Marvelous courses and stuff, and um, I was like, oh, this will be all cool shit I can use in like the sci-fi thing I'm working on, and
hmm.
it's just fun. Like, I'm just learning a bunch of different things, and you know, just trying to fail.
Yeah, yeah. Starting a large project is usually like a really good. It will teach you a lot
Hmm.
about things, about yourself as well. Like how far are you willing to push it, if you have energy, or um, you know, just the idea of starting something and then going through it, and then doing it for more than a couple of weeks. Like it's grueling. It just makes you feel, I really don't want to do it. And usually it's like with, I think it's a great precursor for anyone who wants to work in the industry. And you always wonder like how it is to work in video games, for instance, right? Or how it is to work on film. Start a project and then make it like a large project, something that will take you months to do, like at least a couple of weeks, but like let's say months, ideally. And then the moment in which you gonna get really tired of it and you would want to drop it, that's basically about 90% of what you're gonna do working in the industry. Because
Dude, it's so fucking true, man. Like when my brother came over My two brothers came over to Washington for the holiday, for over Christmas, and they're like, "Oh, let's see the game or whatever." And like, I booted up the game, and I caught a bug, right? And I was like, "Hold on, before you guys play this, let me go fix this one bug." Fucking 5 hours later, right? Like, I'm swearing, I'm pissed. Like, my brothers are bringing beer over. I'm like, "Get the fuck out of my office! I'm gonna fix this. This is supposed to be a 2-minute thing." But like, yeah, I mean, like, but then you get through it and you're like, "Oh, okay, that's kind of cool," you know. And I don't know.
And their reaction was probably,
I mean, they grew up with me, so they're like, "Yeah, this is par for the course for him." Like,
like your blood, sweat, and tears, and their reaction is like, eh.
It was funny. My brother Danny, when he walked into my office, he's like, "Dude," he's like, "this looks exactly like your room when you were in high school. It's just all heavy metal posters and guitars." He's like, "You haven't evolved at all."
Yeah,
so,
dude, that's fun.
That's the nice thing, kind of too, about being short, is I get to wear all the same clothes. So like, all of my heavy metal stuff is still totally valid. Still works. You always got to look for the positive.
Yeah. But yeah, starting a project and going through it, yeah. I know what you mean. It's like it's exactly how it is in games industry. It's like, let's fix this bug, and like freaking 20 hours later, like nothing's working. It's like, oh my god, like I hate my job.
At a certain point, you just stop giving time estimates.
Yeah.
Because you're like, this should be fast. It's not going to be.
Yeah.
So I'm going to lie to you, or you're going to be unhappy because I'm not going to give you a time estimate, and I don't want to lie to someone. So it'll be done when it's done.
Yeah. Dude, I would hate, because like when you work in games, and you know it too, like you have to talk with everyone. You're gonna talk with programmers, you're gonna talk with animators and all that, and sometimes it's a very interesting kinds of conversations you're gonna have with those people, because the way the programmer thing is so completely different than the way we think as artists.
Oh yeah.
And like it kind of reminds me like the early days of V-Ray. That's such a programming way of, like, it's basically like you can tell, oh, those guys are just like eggheads.
Oh yeah, dude, they're
just making
fucking
this stuff.
geniuses.
Nothing makes sense though. Like it's all mathematical, and then you ask them like, hey, like why this is not working this way or that way, and their reply is like, it works as it's supposed to. Like you just do the mathematical equation, it's like mathematically correct, and it's mathematically this and mathematically that. It's like,
oh yeah, dude.
And then you're like, but where's the UI?
Oh dude, and then you feel like an idiot. Like that's like you walk through, like, I mean, they're all super nice, like all the people at Chaos are super fucking nice, but like I was at Blizzard, and I was running into an issue with displacement in V-Ray, and Vlado was like explaining to me how it works, and he like talked to me for like seriously probably like an hour, and I didn't understand any of it. It's like, I'm like, all right, I got a map. Why is it doing this, and why is it killing the render time? Like that's all I need to know.
Yeah, I don't know Vlado, but I can imagine him saying, "Bro, you do this." You put two numbers together. Bro, I don't understand. Why you don't understand, bro?
It's cool though, man. That's kind of dude, God bless those guys, because like we wouldn't have programs like ZBrush or any of these things. You know, like as crazy as it is to sit here and use this stuff and to play around with it, fucking imagine writing the damn thing, man.
Yeah.
Like, fuck, how would you write ZBrush?
It's what you said in the beginning. Like, we kind of get spoiled by the fact that there's so much software out there and it's so easy to use. And like we were talking about graphics cards, and like the moment you get used to it, and you have to scale back, it's like, oh, like you complain about, it's like that, you know, the typical LA person complaining about bad weather when it's like 62 outside. It's like, dude, what the hell? It's like minus 20 in Siberia. Like, stop complaining.
Minus 20 in Siberia, yeah. No, but I mean, that's totally It's totally it.
Yeah. It's kind of funny. It really is. Like just how quickly we get used to having something, and then once it's being taken away, like if someone takes away rendering engines, like you're gonna realize like, oh, I get it now. Like I'm actually privileged to use that stuff because it makes everything so easy. Versus, I remember the time when like we talked about Photoshop. Like it would cost $4,000 to buy Photoshop, and that wasn't too long ago either.
Yeah.
That was like 10 years ago or something, or
It's
12 years ago.
I worked with a guy at Riot. His name was Brandon, and I mean, this guy he worked at Pixar. He's a fucking genius. Like, guy's just an absolute genius. And I remember coming in one morning, and he's like, "Hey, how was your weekend?" I was like, "I'm a little hungover. It was okay." And I'm like, "What did you?" I was like, "What did you do?" He's like, "Oh, I wrote a ray tracer." I'm like, "What?" Some of these guys are just on different wavelengths, right?
Yeah. They are. It's just like all the commitment and work that goes into writing that stuff. It's so insane. Like it's beyond what I consider normal.
It's beyond what I consider normal.
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
It's like a programmer version of Alex Honnold, climbing El Cap, with just like less dire consequences, I guess. But you've seen that that thing, yeah?
Yeah.
Free Solo. Yeah.
Dude, I couldn't do it. I can't watch the videos. They freak me the fuck out.
Did you watch the whole thing, or did you stop?
No.
You did
I
not?
stopped.
Oh
No.
my god.
I
You have
can't.
to watch it, dude.
Fucking it makes me nauseous.
just watch it and play 8 Mile.
That's hilarious.
Palms are sweaty.
Oh, dude, I
Mom's
mean,
spaghetti.
like, it's just I'm like, dude, I don't want to watch someone die, and then I'm like, this dude's doing this voluntarily.
He's not gonna die. Like
it freaks me out, though,
obviously.
man. Like, it freaks me out. Freaks me out.
Keeps you on the edge of the seat for sure. Like
Yeah.
I watched the documentary. It's pretty good. It has some weak moments in my opinion. Like there's certain things that I feel could have been done better, but like that's just my personal opinion in terms of like comparing it to like the best documentaries I've ever seen. Like Heart of Darkness. Like if you compare that to Heart of Darkness in terms of like how documentary is made, it's like professional versus amateur, but just the way the actual climb was shot, and then you realize the magnitude of things. And you've been to Yosemite before, yeah?
Yeah.
You've been to Glacier Point, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you know what the 2,000 feet drop looks like.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's because there's like in Yosemite there's this place. I think it's 2,000 feet, but there's this spot where you can just literally drive up to and walk. I don't know, maybe 100 feet, and there is like a lookout, and it's literally a sheer drop. It just goes down 2,000 feet.
It's gross, man.
And you look at the valley. It's so crazy because you look at the valley and like everyone looks like a microscopic Lego. You see like little cars. It looks like the intro to Silicon Valley, right?
Yeah.
It looks exactly like that. Like you see like little figures, little stick figures down there, like some car. It's all like tiny, and it's like right below you, and that's not even the height of El Cap. Like that's not even the height of El Cap. That's like, I think it's like 2,000 feet maybe. The climb he was doing is like 3,400 feet.
I mean, and like the thing too is like there was a bunch of people that came before him that were not successful. Like you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I always think about that kind of stuff. Like when you see like these like amazing people who have, like swam across the ocean or, done these things. There were people that tried that before.
I don't
Like
think anyone
before,
tried soloing, like free soloing El Cap
you
before.
don't think so?
No, he said that too. Like there was no one who even dared, because he it was interesting thing he said. It's like a very regulating discipline, because like if you fall from 50 feet, you're pretty much dead.
Yeah.
Especially on the rocks. Like he fell from 15 feet and got like fracture in his or something happened with his spine. And like anytime you fall from rocks, you're gonna get injured. But anything above 20, 25 feet, you're dead pretty much.
Hmm.
So if you're going up without ropes, it's 20 feet and you're like, I'm done. You're like, if you're not ready and completely with the right mindset, you're not gonna go up. You're gonna be too scared, unless you're like Daredevil, because there are people like that who just don't care.
It's but what's even crazy to think about too, though, is like they have to have a film crew that goes up there with them, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Oh, it's nerve wracking.
that's a
for those
fucking
guys
hell of
for
a
sure.
job.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, but it's pretty interesting. Like they are breaking it down pretty well in the documentary. The
they
whole
explain
process.
how they do all of it.
Yeah, and like the guy who was filming it, the main, like the director of the film. There's actually a couple that directed the film. It was Jimmy Chin and his wife. I can't remember her name. Her name is like more difficult than his name, so that's why I remember his name. But Jimmy, like I looked him up, and he did like a documentary called Meru, and him and there's two other guys were like the first people that climbed this thing called shark fin in it was in Himalayas. Like they're first ever to climb that shit, like super difficult climb, and there was like many people before them that tried and failed. So he's like the creme la creme when it comes to climbing, but also direct, like actually doing photography and recording while doing that. Like, because you have to realize, not only you have to be amazing at climbing, but also like hauling all that gear, and then being good at cinematography to actually capture the right shots.
Yeah, dude. And then, like, are they doing? It's like,
But
I'm assuming it's not the right shot the first time, right? They're gonna have to like cut
Yeah.
stuff, and oh man. it
Well,
seems
yeah, like
brutal.
with the climb, I guess that was like, if we're not gonna record something, like we'll never have a chance to do it again ever.
Mhm.
Um, but him and Alex are actually good friends. Like they've been climbing together for like 15 years or something. And going on different expeditions and whatnot. So it's not like a random bunch of people that were joining the venture of checking out how he's climbing this thing. It's like all of those people are those people he knows really well.
Oh man, it's free solo, man.
But
Ah.
it's so crazy when you watch it, because you know how high it is. There's certain shots where you see, like, there's like certain sections. I like when I see stuff like that. I like to dive deep and actually try to learn about things, like how those things work. And there's certain sections like the first part. It's called like free blast, and it's basically like a sheer granite that goes like 80-degree angle upwards, and the holds are like pinches, like you're
Ugh.
basically pinch holding stuff, and
God.
then the foot is basically relying on the friction between like little nooks that are sticking out.
No.
It's crazy if you think about it. And the way he explains, not really that hard for him, because it's just like memorized on it's basically like going from memory and knowing every single hold all across, right? He basically mapped the whole route where he has to do what hold, and it's almost like a composition. Like if he's a musician, he's doing those really difficult notes for 5 hours. and
God.
memorizing all of them. Dude, he's like 100% Asperger's, 100%.
You'd have to
Because
be.
you have to be. Like, there's no other way. Um, but yeah, if you think about it, like that's basically what he does. Well, the consequence is that if you're, they said it in the film too. Like, I guess spoiler alerts.
Mhm.
If you didn't watch it, go fuck yourself. Actually, um, spoiler alert. He didn't die. He did it. Doom. There. Boom. There you have it. No, but it's like one of the guys compared it to like it's like being on Olympics, you know, and you have to win the gold medal, and if you don't, you die. It's so crazy. Like it's so crazy if you think about it. But yeah, like when I was watching, my hands were wet, and like anytime I watched the last part a few times, all the moment he starts climbing, it's all wet. Like free lube, I guess.
Yeah, there you go. Like, God, dude, that's the right way to look at it, though, man. Like the if you don't get gold, you're dead.
Yeah,
Like,
it's pretty much what it is, man. That's so crazy.
it really puts things into perspective.
It's definitely the most impressive human performance achievement ever made in human history. There's a good argument to say it is.
It's super uncommon, that's for damn sure. I mean, who the fuck else is going to try that? They're going to die.
Well, there's
Like,
probably going to be another Aspie that will do it.
yeah, you'd have to be. I mean, like it's incredible,
Yeah, it's great,
dude.
but it gives you appreciation to greatness and the amount of preparation that goes into stuff like that. Because it's not a coincidence that he has done it. I think what this documentary that does really well is showing the process, even though it doesn't go like in extreme details on how everything was done, but it gives you like a really good insight on how this guy thinks, and it's not accident. It's not like I'm a daredevil, I'm gonna just go and I have no fear. It's like no, like the way he thinks about approaching.
Systematic.
Yeah, it's very systematic, and it's an accumulation of like all the experiences from his entire life, basically,
Dude, I
that
love that.
culminates into that one moment. So it's pretty awesome. Yeah,
That's fucking super impressive.
but that would makes great people great, I think, right? Wouldn't you
Mhm.
agree? Like the
I think
fact that
so.
they get so obsessed and then dedicate everything into it. It was kind of interesting because like you could tell, like if he had to choose between himself and his girlfriend, it's like I know what I'm choosing. Like there's no question about it. Like he could tell he wouldn't choose otherwise.
I
It's
mean, I think
interesting.
that's like you could probably pull parallels on that though for a lot of different other disciplines though too, right? People do that with their careers. They do that, and I'm not obviously saying the stuff the guy isn't doing is incredibly impressive, but I think like the dedication though can happen in a bunch of different ways.
Yeah.
I mean, people do that with their kids, right? I mean,
Hmm.
we just look at it differently, right?
Yeah,
And
exactly.
granted, you're not fucking hanging off the side of a mountain, but like,
It's not like if you fail on changing a diaper, you're gonna die.
get covered in shit.
Yeah. What's the worst that can happen? You're gonna be covered in shit. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, dude, it's funny because my friend just had his kid, and so he's telling me and my wife just everything that's going on with it,
Hmm.
and like me and my wife we're talking
You
about
don't have kids, right?
we're in the talking phase. Like, dude, now I'm sweating. He just said that. Um, so he's like telling us everything, and I'm like, all right, are you listening to this? Like, this is like this is a game changer. I don't know. How many kids do you have?
Just one.
Is it
Just
hard? It
just
seems
one.
difficult.
I don't want to have more. No,
Okay, that
no fucking
answers
way.
it. That answers it.
No, no way. I guess everyone's different. I know people that have a bunch of kids and they're pretty happy. Like it just depends what kind of person you are, um, and what kind of kids you get too. Because that's
Yeah,
that's a lottery.
Dude, I'd be worried to turn out like me, man. My poor fucking parents.
It's a lottery. Like,
Yeah.
you can get a sweetheart, you can get a devil. Like, there's just so many things that can go, that just go into having kids. You know, it's not like it's. I'll tell you this: it's nothing like everyone is telling you it is. It's just not. Just forget what everyone is telling you about kids.
Okay.
It's just their own experiences with what having kids is. And I can guarantee you that your experience is going to be different if you decide to have kids. Like, completely different. It could be better or worse, you know?
That's
It's
a
like,
great.
it's a lottery, basically.
Imagine somebody selling you a car saying that.
It's basically like, your car is going to drive great or not.
Yeah. It's anyone's guess. Sign
Yeah.
here, here, and here. You're gonna have this for 18 years. Good luck.
Yeah. Oh, and by the way, if you don't maintain this car, like, if for whatever reason you don't maintain this car properly, you're gonna go to jail. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, that's an important little thing to remember.
Yeah.
If you don't maintain this car well, you're going to jail. Oh, dude, that's fucking hilarious.
Yeah.
But it's truthful.
Yeah.
Yeah, you will go to jail.
You will.
Oh man. So where do you think things are going to go in the art community, like art field, business stuff? You think it's just going to keep getting faster and faster?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm actually curious
Yeah.
myself, you know? Things are going super fast.
It feels like it, right?
fast, yeah. And the field is becoming really competitive. There's just like more and more people that are doing this stuff, you know?
Mm-hmm.
There's just so many artists right now out there. It's easier than ever to actually become an artist, you know?
Mm-hmm.
That's a good thing, I guess. It depends, like, what's your stance on it too. Like, are you pissed off that it's easier than ever? You know, because some people are. Some people think that it's moving too fast, and you know, you don't get an opportunity to actually grow enough to, you know, achieve a certain amount of success that if you would otherwise get if you were lucky enough to start this discipline when you were younger, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But then on the other hand, you have to think about like how much more difficult it was back then. Like, it was way more difficult because there was like no material to learn from. So you would have to be a kind of person that had the amount of dedication to actually learn it, you know?
Yeah.
And find solutions when there are like no one to tell you what's right and what's wrong. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you would have to figure that out, or have enough money to go to like, you know, art center or something, which was like super expensive to begin with, and you would have to be actually aware that a place like that exists. Yeah, it's intriguing. It's intriguing to say at least, you know. I don't know where the things are going. You work in a company that's gonna probably be a Skynet of concept art, by the way.
Hey.
I saw this video of like AI waterfalls, dude. I was like, you know what I mean? It's like,
No comment.
why do you need environment concept artists anymore?
No comment.
I know you cannot comment on that shit. I don't want to get you in trouble.
No, man, but dude, I don't know, like it, because okay, so I was actually reading this. Actually, was I reading it or was I listening to it? I don't know. Someone was saying, it was an awesome quote. It was saying, the problem with the race to the bottom is that eventually you might actually win it.
Yeah.
And I've had this view for a very long time, and I might be totally off my fucking rocker like I am on so many other things. But I look at from like a business standpoint, I look at art almost as a commodity, right?
It is commodity at this point. You're not wrong on that at all.
And as with anything, apples, art, whatever, as that increases, it drives value down.
Yeah.
There's always going to be your high-end restaurants. There's always going to be the high-end food. There's always going to be the high-end artists. But especially with the software becoming more and more democratic, being more accessible, I wonder, it's got to be really fucking hard, like I think about this all the time. Like, I mean, everyone loves Vitaly's work. He's one of the best fucking 3D concept dudes on the planet. Awesome guy. Robots, you nail it. It's his stuff is so fucking replicated.
Yeah.
And as that replication continues, like, I mean, that also undercuts his value potentially too, right? Like, it's just, I wouldn't say value. I'd say, like, I don't know. I'm just trying to look at it from like a corporatist standpoint.
I get it.
And
I get it.
it is kind of scary, like, I mean, this is one of the things that keeps me up kind of at night, and why I'm always like, you got to learn like as much technical shit as you can and branch out as much as you can, because everywhere the roots kind of grow, it seems like eventually something pops up that's faster. And, in a lot of these, especially these bigger productions, cost is a big concern. So if they can do it cheaper, they definitely will.
Oh yeah, 100%, 100%. If something can be done cheaper, it will be done cheaper. They'll find a way to do it cheaper. And automation is like, it's going to replace a lot of work. It's already replacing work. You don't really have any more rotoscoping artists anymore, right? There's like, maybe some of that is being still outsourced to India, but you have software that does it as good, if not better, than humans.
Yeah.
And that's a whole industry that's gone since, I remember it's being taught when I was joining concept art, or when I was learning about concept art, and then I started being interested in VFX. That was 2006, 2007. I remember you would still have like ton of classes in rotoscoping. Now it's completely gone,
Yeah.
Like, think about where 3D modeling, like especially humans, like
digital doubles, man.
digital doubles, all of that stuff, where this is going. And you have scanning. Now you have you can literally take iPhone to be your
3D scanner
and mocap. You can do mocap sessions and import it right into like Maya and stuff.
Yep.
And so that all of that becomes very easy for like, maybe not high-end VFX, right? But for like most common jobs, which is like the vast majority of the market, it becomes very accessible. So you don't have to have someone who is like who has a super good amount of expertise, technical expertise, to do the job,
Yeah.
So in that terms, I agree with you 100%. Like, it becomes a commodity. It actually becomes kind of scary if you're in like one of those businesses where, let's say if you're a 3D artist, only 3D artist, like only 3D artist, and that's your whole shtick. Like, you only do retopology of 3D model for video games, or you only texture stuff.
Yeah.
Like, all of that is slowly but surely becoming obsolete.
Yep.
And it will
100%.
eventually will. Like,
100%.
you have software that does such a good job already when it comes to texturing. And now it's like, when you think about it, like photogrammetry, and then photogrammetry itself allowing you to work with the texture, like actually take the texture data,
Yeah,
and
dude.
then availability of like a larger companies or like the kit bash part, right? Like, you have people doing kit bash.
You don't even need to model 3D anymore.
You don't have to model. Like, if you're a concept artist, you literally could forget about modeling if you wanted to.
Yeah.
You'd be like, you could probably live off doing just taking stuff from
the next robot pack or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
And I mean, it's interesting too because like I've talked, and I mean even me, like I get fucking sometimes I get super pissed about it. I'm like, fuck, dude, this sucks because it's faster, right, to definitely download it, but I don't know, man. It's weird, and it's kind of a brave new world. I don't know. I don't know. This has been a concern for me for a while, and it's not getting elated.
Yeah.
Like especially like, dude, I seriously, if you get a chance to go check out Instalod,
Yeah, I'm
like
gonna check it out for sure. For sure.
the the processing, the data processing, like the things like technology, it goes like in this kind of linear path. It goes faster and cheaper. That is the way.
Yeah.
If you think about pretty much everything, that's the way it goes.
Yeah.
Why would our stuff not be any different? And the thing that's freaky though is like, how do you prepare for that? Like, what do you do to prepare for that? Like,
Yeah, so what's your take on this? Like if someone asks you for advice and say, "Hey, I'm an artist, I'm trying to get into this industry. I don't know what to do because I see like, all the ZBrush and all those goodies out there, and I see how hard it is to get into the industry, and like something I've started learning maybe a year ago now is becoming obsolete. Like, what the fuck? Like, what am I supposed to do?" So how would you answer that question if someone asks you, like, how would you prepare to tackle the fact that automation and like the development of software and hardware, like how would you prepare for any of that?
So I don't like. I guess my general answer to that is I don't think you can try to offset like some type of knowledge that you don't know about. Like you're not going to be able to outlearn something that you don't know,
Mm-hmm.
and you're definitely not going to be able to outlearn or outdo a computer. Like computer's not going to get tired.
Yeah.
But the ability and the mindset of adaptation and kind of acceptance that what you have now is going to go away at some point, and you have to be able to adaptively learn and change it. Like you have to be comfortable with potentially changing an entirely different job class, right?
Yeah.
And that's why like diversification, and this is why I always tell people like go more technical, go more technical, go more technical as much as you can. Like, if you were interested in Houdini, go into fucking Houdini. If you're interested in games, like that's where your passion is, go into games and learn the fucking technical side of games. There's a lot of applications for games that are outside of games, real estate, military, a bunch of other things,
Yeah.
And that is, I think, the only thing that we can do, because you're not going to be able, like, as this stuff gets cheaper, they're not going to want to continue to pay developers high-end salaries. They're not going to. They're going to pay a few developers high-end salaries, and they're going to outsource the rest of the stuff that needs physical labor,
which is already happening, right? So
exactly.
we had a boom of next gen where studios would hire hundreds and hundreds of employees.
Yep.
And then fire them all.
Yep.
Fire them all because it's you just outsource to cheaper places basically.
Yep.
You can outsource, like, vast majority of the big studios for video games, the way they work right now is they would keep their best artists to work on the fun stuff. Let's call it this way, fun stuff, and then outsource pretty much everything else to China, India, and wherever is like the cheapest place right now. I guess India and China are like the two biggest markets that are still relatively cheap to outsource to. But that's changing too. Like China is having so much going on right now that it's like kind of insane. Go on ArtStation and look how many Chinese artists are out there right now.
Oh yeah,
it's a booming industry. So
it's a huge industry, and it's all very high end, and their working conditions too are very different than ours, right? Like the stuff's like the hours, all of that kind of stuff. It's entirely a different thing. And I'm not saying like I tend to be kind of a big hippie when it comes to exploitation of workers in general. Like, you shouldn't fucking do it. But at the end of the day, like, companies, like, they care about their stock. They care about their, you know what I
Yeah, they're
mean?
gonna do
So
it whether you like it
they're
or
gonna do
not.
it. Yeah, it doesn't matter about the niceties of it.
Yeah, the way I try to approach that stuff is like, unless I'm in those shoes myself,
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to have an opinion whether it's good or not. Because there's argument to be said, and again, like, I don't know, like, maybe the argument is wrong, but if you want to be genuine about what's the best solution to a problem, you have to listen to all arguments from
Mm-hmm.
all the sides. And someone would say like, oh, working conditions are horrible, but then like you might present the counter argument and say,
Compared to,
compared
yeah.
to what? Because we are pretty privileged to be in Western
Mm-hmm.
society, right?
Yep.
I grew up behind the Iron Curtain. I grew up in a fucking shithole, but but it's like nowhere near to the actual world countries, or countries
Mm-hmm.
riddled by world wars, or like wars in general.
Mm-hmm.
Like, my country got it like really bad for the World War II, and then like the entire communism part. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not gonna lie, we're in pretty bad shape, But Poland is different now. Like, it's a legit, country. It's not like a part of Russia anymore, because technically Poland was like its own country, but like everything that was um, under the Iron Curtain was basically Soviet. It was
Mm.
just Stalin, and Stalin was World War II, but whoever was after, whoever was fuck me and my history, dude. But you know what I mean. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it was all Russia basically until it collapsed, like the Berlin Wall and all that stuff, until it all collapsed. It was all like one monolith, one communist monolith. So the living conditions were horrible compared to like the standards we have today. Um, but like nothing, not comparable at all to like anywhere in Africa, or like vast majority of China or India, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I have not experienced any of that, so I don't want to have an opinion.
Mm-hmm.
But what I'm saying is, like, if I was a kid, if I was 20 years old, and Apple came to my country and said, for $5 a week, you can have this job, knowing that the alternative is just having nothing, I would
Yeah,
fucking
you're gonna
take
take
that
it.
in the
Yeah.
heartbeat. It's all perspective. Because for us, it's like, it's not a minimum wage, and it's like not to a standards of what you get paid in America. But you have to realize America is compared to other countries, is fucking expensive place.
Mm-hmm.
Well, generally Western Europe is really fucking expensive compared to everywhere else. I remember when I was growing up, I was thinking prices in Poland were like pretty expensive, because life was like really expensive. I grew up like piss poor, dude, like piss poor. And then once, when I was a kid, I went to UK to visit my family there. Like, we drove across Europe to get there, like a shitty car. Um, it cost us like, it was like something we were saving up for like 2 years to do,
Mm-hmm.
because like just the fuel cost us so
Yeah, the
much,
petrol. Yeah.
just to get there. Like, all the savings just went to get there and get back. Like, not even living, not even eating or anything. Um, but I remember like looking at the prices in the stores, like, how those people even can afford that to live here. And then you hear like how much money they make, and like, you guys are rich. But they're like low income families.
Yeah.
So
It's really weird, like, how the
yeah,
whole system and stuff kind of works itself out. But
yeah. We kind of
it'll
went on the
be
tangent, by the way.
no, no. This is good though. It's kind of the fun of doing these kind of things. Although I'm gonna have to get off here soon. I got to get my beauty sleep. I don't want any more
Yeah.
gray in my beard.
Yeah, we can
I
wrap
gotta.
it up like really soon. I don't think there was actually a couple of questions. Maybe we should jump into that. We
Oh
kind of
shit!
went
I
on
forgot
many.
people were like listening to this. I thought we were just shooting the shit at a certain point.
Dude, that's the best part. You know, like you dive into conversation and you forget about those things. I wasn't even paying attention to chat for a moment. Um, yeah, people were like tuning in as well. I think there was a few questions. Let's
Sorry,
see.
guys.
Let's read some fan questions. Fan questions. All right, there's one. It says, with all these 3D programs you use, would you still say learning drawing, sketching, design fundamentals is still important?
They don't say anything that's gonna make you smarter is more important. Like if it's gonna make you better, you should do it. And I mean, certain like me, like I actually like life drawing a lot. I
Mm-hmm.
did, I never use it for my job or anything like that, but it helps you see form and that kind of stuff. And
Yeah.
I mean, there's benefits. This kind of goes back to what you were saying earlier, right? There's benefits for things that are totally adjacent or ancillary to what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the more well-rounded you are, the better off you're going to be, I think.
Yeah, I agree. And I would say at this point, knowing how easy to is to actually learn software in general,
Mm-hmm.
I would say it's probably more important. I don't know if more important, but equally important at least, because learning fundamentals, like it's a knowledge that can be cross-pollinated across all the software that you're gonna learn afterwards. Like once you understand how perspective works, once you understand what the lighting is,
Mm-hmm.
you know the theory of it and how to look at lighting in the first place, because that's a whole can of worms like you have to get into eventually. You know, like understanding what lighting really is, because it's so easy to get, you know, uh, it's so easy to get distracted by the glitter of, you know, having like awesome tools that do the work for you. But the reality is, like, if you go and look at, again, like look at ArtStation, there's quite a lot of technical prowess that goes into work that you can appreciate, and you can see that on the technical level a lot of work is done really well. But there's only a handful of people that are really masters when it comes to lighting, when it comes to composition, you know, when it comes to um, making interesting shots in general, or making interesting illustrations. Not illustrations that are executed really well, but the ones that make you stop and think like, oh shit, this is awesome. Like I love the idea behind the picture, you know, not just like how it was made, but what it represents, you know.
Mm-hmm.
There's not that many images that are done on that level. So I would say foundation of design, especially design, but design is connected to pretty much foundation of art in general. Like you have to understand shapes, form, you have to understand rhythms, all of those things. It's probably the stuff that will take you the longest to understand and get good at. Whereas you can learn software quick, like really quick. Today, like most of the software is super easy to learn. It's gonna take you a week or two to learn something, to learn basics of really difficult software, and it can take you an hour or two to learn basics of really easy software. Like Fusion 360 is gonna take you an hour to understand, and you can use
Yeah.
it for work. So, yeah, I think we kind of agree
Mm-hmm.
on both ends. Let's see what else is here. How does David balance the art and the technical side of game development? Any tips? Any tips for not getting stuck with one part of the process?
Um, that's a good question. I don't know. I kind of approach I actually approach the way like I do like a lot of the technical stuff the same way I do my art.
Hmm.
And I never really let myself super zero in on anything. And that's also because I have OCD. So, and I'm not, that's like 100% dead serious diagnosed with it.
Are you
Um,
diagnosed with it?
yeah. So zoning in on something is like a double-edged sword. Like if I drill into something too long, I won't back out of it.
Mm.
Um, so I've learned over the years to just kind of force myself to like, that's why I time gate stuff so much. It's not to like show off, it's just because I won't stop working on it.
Gotcha.
And then the other thing too is like I found that like most of the problems that I run in, like technical problems that I run into, if I walk away from them and come back to them, eventually I'll solve them. Like even stupidly simple shit. Like there was a thing for my game that I was working on that I was struggling over this problem for like fucking months, and I was like, I'm not getting it, I'm not getting it, I'm not getting it. And so I stopped working on it. I went off, did a bunch of characters, did a bunch.
Hmm.
I came back and did some basic C sharp stuff. Fucking did it in 20 minutes. I don't know why. Like I picked up something along the way in between then and there that helped me, approach it differently, and
Hmm.
it works out, right?
Yeah, that makes sense. It kind of comes back to when we were talking about meditation and yoga.
Hmm.
It's like allowing uh, your brain to relax for a second and not overthink. There's something that I think all the scientists agree about, that sleep is when you do actual problem solving most of the time. So like a lot of times when you go to sleep, you will actually figure out solutions to problems that are very difficult to solve. It's very similar to the way, like when you want to get in shape, you have to, like, when you work out, you basically destroy yourself and then you allow your body to recuperate during the sleep, and that's when actual building happens.
Hmm.
Uh, it's the same philosophy for brain development and the way we actually learn as well. Like, you just have to allow yourself a time, especially when you get stuck, to do something else and not think about it. And then usually sleep, or having like strenuous activity, like going for a jog or run or meditate, like anything that clears your mind, you know,
Yeah.
will help you to get unstuck. There's something to be said to get to sort of like punch through the problem and dig into finding solution until you find solution. But yeah, sometimes it's
Well,
just easier to drop it and do something else for a bit.
I mean, there's like an interesting like kind of tangent off of that. There's been like plenty of studies that have shown that there's an optimal work time that most people have, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, after I think it's like I don't know, we'll just say 8 hours. I don't know if that's right, but anything over 8 hours, your productivity starts to drop exponentially, right? Um, and I think that kind of just goes hand in hand with what you were talking about, being able to let your brain kind of chill out and process and getting up and walking away, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, sometimes we just need a break. You just need to
Yep.
like chill and not think about work, or do something else, or sleep on it. And sometimes just better, like, plan your tasks better, figure out like what else has to be done, and if you're stuck with one thing and like there's no end to it, just change to the other task and focus on that instead, so that you keep the momentum of being productive. Um, is it necessary to learn 3D software in order to work as a concept artist?
You know more than I do about that.
It's yeah, I don't know. You can still work without knowing 3D, but it's slowly going away. I know, like, most of the guys at Naughty Dog, for instance, they already use 3D quite extensively. Some of them, like 70% and up, is 3D. So You can still paint. Like John Park still fucking paints. So, at the end of the day, what matters is the quality of work. But you have to realize that 3D tools are becoming easier and easier and easier. So there's no excuse not to learn them because they vastly improve the speed and the quality of the work you do. So, refreshing and somewhat reassuring to hear that you are not the only one going through industry burnout. Question: have you guys tried traditional sculpting? Does David have traditional background?
Oh yeah, I got a fine arts background, and then traditional sculpting. I mean I've done like sculpty stuff and that kind of thing, but I like to do like a lot of like, I don't know, I like to cut down trees and shit, like wood stuff. You know, I don't know.
Do you like
Outside.
digging into actual,
I like, as weird as it sounds, I really like manual labor a lot.
That's good.
Yeah,
That's good,
it,
man.
it helps a ton.
Yeah, it definitely makes if there's something just apart from the fact that something done manually is like there's something revered about the fact that you have a sculpture. It takes way more effort than doing something digitally.
Hmm.
And so like especially if you can reach the same level of detail or like the same quality that you would reach by doing like super awesome digital sculptures. If you can get that in traditional sculpture, like the level of appreciation people will have towards it's going to be vastly, better than if you would do it digitally. It's one of the reasons why people still enjoy traditional art, like drawing. If you go on Instagram and you see some of the people doing like, pencil or ink drawings on like a really, really high level, you just enjoy the shit out of it because it takes a lot of work. You cannot make mistakes, really,
There's no Control Z.
Yeah, there's no Control Z, and it just takes time. It gets you into that mode of in that flow. Like you have to flow doing that because just the amount of work that goes into traditional art compared to digital is vastly different.
Yeah.
Is Blender going to be a major player in the industry like Maya and 3ds Max?
I think it already is, actually. Like, I honestly do. I think it will be. And I mean, I think a lot of people are already using it heavily enough. And I hope to God, frankly, it scares the shit out of the other companies.
Yeah, more competition is
good.
better. Yeah, 100%. I agree with you. We want more competition.
Yes.
Like I really like 3ds Max. I really like it. I'm not gonna lie. I don't want to switch.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to switch. But if things are like, I'm already picking up other software that does better job than 3ds Max,
Yep.
And I wish I didn't have to, but it's like
it kind of is what it is, right?
Yeah, it is what it is. Like you just have to. Eventually, you just have to, because the software gets better. Yeah, I said this before when we started. The modeling tools in Blender are quite like not the embedded ones, but the plugins that are written for it are so good. You've seen Bugscutter, right?
Oh yeah.
David?
Oh fuck yeah.
It's insane how good it is. How is it even possible?
Smart people.
It's like Mesh Fusion in Modo, but it doesn't suck.
Yeah.
It actually works wonderfully. So
now there's an inverse to this though, and I always it's probably worth saying. Vitaly still's using Softimage.
Yeah.
And it was funny because last time we were hanging out, we were talking, and he brought up a really good fucking point. I love trying to trump the guy because he's so fucking smart, but he totally stumped me. he said at a certain point, he's like, a chisel's still a chisel, like basically giving the ancillary, like
But
it's
that's so true, though.
yeah, it's 100% fucking true. I mean, you know, you got to think about it too, like from just like a time investment standpoint, right? Like for something for me to migrate off of totally, for something for me to like go into like basically commit to another 3D software like I am with Max, it has to offset a lot of things just from a time management standpoint.
Yes.
And there is definitely software that does things a million times better than Max does, but on the whole, I'm still using Max because I still can't get everything out of the other packages, the cost association with it. And when I'm talking cost, I'm not talking like financial cost. I'm talking about time cost typically.
Yeah, time is money, by the way. So
yeah, it's huge, and you can't get it back.
Yeah.
So if I have to drop away from that, and I mean at a certain point too, like if I already spend a lot of time dedicating myself to learning a bunch of different software and stuff. I still have to do work at a certain point,
Yeah. No, I agree with you. That's exactly one of the reasons, like, because if money was only money and the time was not money for me, then I would be on Blender. Like, there was no reason to learn Max. First, like, for anyone who is learning 3D software, like, learning Blender is actually a legit way to get in the industry. And I guess there's something to be said about VFX where, I don't think companies will switch immediately for simple reason. Like, there's a very simple reason why they won't do that is because, Maya has such a support when it comes to the ability to script.
Mm-hmm.
And then, there's just so much when it goes into the pipeline of things,
Yeah, the pipeline thing is a big deal.
And I think Maya is still better when it comes to animation. It's probably like the best animation, right? Software right now.
I would every animator that I know uses it. So.
Yeah. I'm talking a little bit out of the line here because I don't use Maya, so I don't want to like step over some toes here and like, so this is the best software. But yeah, I don't know. Like, it's definitely going to be a major player. It already is, especially for concept art and some of the production stuff. I've seen it even used in film, to a certain degree. But yeah, like I don't think it's gonna be replacing VFX. It's gonna be like jumping into VFX really heavily anytime soon. Like maybe in a couple of years. Who knows? Like we'll see how it develops. I know I think they already have release date for Blender, for July, I believe. So once the actual software is out, then we'll see what happens. There's something to be said about community driven versus company driven. Like you have to remember this. If you have a multi-million-dollar studio and you have a software and then you need a support and then you don't have that support unless you go to forums, you're losing thousands of dollars an hour.
Yeah.
And so at that point it's better to have licenses for Maya where you have like instant support.
Somebody you can sue.
or literally somebody you can sue.
No, but I mean that is totally valid on that. And honestly, I will say, like, I bitch and moan about 3D Studio all the fucking time. Max 2020, for all of its faults, I mean, there's issues with it. It has been pretty good. I'm actually in it right now, so
yeah, I'm doing hair stuff as we're talking. So
and,
yeah, it's still good. I see powers of Moto though, not Moto, Blender.
Yeah,
it's pretty legit at this point.
Well, I mean, I would make the very real argument one of the things that has made Max decent has been its scripting community and like its code, like all the plugin stuff that people develop on the sides for it.
Yeah.
And I mean, fucking Christ, dude! Like you said, I mean, the shit that Moto's got going on for it. I mean, I would love to see that stuff inside of Max at some point, but
Yeah. You mean Blender?
You know,
Yeah. But
yeah, you know what I'm saying. I'm tired.
Let's get one more question and wrap it up. Actually,
All right.
let's see. Actually, there is no other questions. That's
Perfect.
Good.
All right, man.
Yeah.
Good times.
Cinema 4D is good. Someone asked about Cinema 4D. Yeah, Cinema 4D is awesome. If you're like into motion design, that's probably your best tool to choose because it's just built for it. But even like I know like Steve Messing is using Cinema 4D for matte paintings. Yeah, you can do pretty insane stuff. Again, like at the end of the day, all of that is just software. You know.
Mm-hmm.
And all of that software is pretty easy to learn. Like just understanding the concept of what modeling is more important than knowing how to model in Maya or 3ds Max, because you can switch. It's gonna be painful with some software switches, but you can still switch if you needed to. But if you don't understand what poly modeling is, like how are you gonna switch? You're gonna learn, like you have to know the foundation of it in a way. So yeah, I think we kind of all agree on the concepts. So
yeah. All right,
let's wrap it up here. Actually, it's a good point.
All right, dude.
Good conversation, man. That was fun.
Always, man.
That was fun. I hope I wasn't talking too much, but yeah, we're just chatting.
It's always good to chat.
Yeah, it's not like we're having an actual interview here. It's just like two buds just catching up, shooting shit, dude.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, man.
At the end of the day, I hope it was helpful for you guys. And yeah, I'm thinking about doing Art Cafe more regularly. In ideal scenario, unless I get real stuck with work again, I would love to do it weekly on like a schedule where you can always expect. And I think for now Monday works really well. It's like a fresh start of the week. That would be perfect to have, every episode, like episodes coming out weekly. That would be a goal. I'm just having a lot of fun with this, and it's like a good opportunity for me to catch up with friends, people I know, and maybe, pick up some brain of others that I've never spoke to. So it's always good. And if it can be helpful, it can be helpful. I appreciate everyone who decides to join us live and also listening to this later, whether it's on iTunes or on YouTube, rewatching on YouTube, or listening on Stitcher, or I think SoundCloud, but I think I need to update SoundCloud for this. Yeah. Anyways, thanks guys. Thanks for being here and asking all those questions, and thanks for David for you being here, finding time for the stream. So appreciate it.
All right,
appreciate it. All right, guys, let's wrap it up. If you enjoy this shit, feel free to subscribe, leave a like or whatever. Anytime you do that, we'll just make it more popular. Making it more popular means more people gonna tune in. So we can help more people to be better, and hopefully I can inspire. Like I try to not to talk about being inspiring. But it's really fun. It's really fun to get like really encouraging, positive comments from people that are listening to the show, and they take something out of it. It's really means a lot. And if you want to support this shit, I have my business that I run, which is Learn Squared, and that's we're trying to do best classes out there. Technically, I could say this is sponsored by Learn Squared, but it's like saying I'm sponsoring myself.
That's hilarious.
But yeah, fun times.
Awesome. My buddy Chris wanted me to give him a shout out, so I'm gonna give him a shout out.
Yeah, shout out to Chris, whoever you are. Dude, David, do you want to plug anything in? Do you have anything going on? You want to talk, like, plug in before we wrap it up?
No, I'm just gonna keep working, man.
Sounds good.
All right, dudes. Peace.
All right, guys. Yep. Take care. Thanks for
Talk to you.
joining, and till the next time.
And then
Peace.
peace. Bye.